Good morning and hopefully the Committee on General Government Operation and Appropriations now reconvene this public hearing from Tuesday, July 9th. Call back to order. Today is Tuesday, July 16th. The time now is 9:10. In compliance with open government law, the notes for this public hearing were posted on GovGuam Public Notice Portal, GTA Channel 21 and Docomo Channel 117, and live stream on the Guam Legislature YouTube, and disseminated via email to all senators, all main media broadcasting outlets on Friday, June 28th. Will be changed on the same day, and then Friday, July 5th. Reconvene notice was announced on email on Tuesday, July 9th. The public hearing today is in reference specifically to Bill 318-37 LS, introduced by Senator Tom Fisher, co-sponsored by myself, Senator Snogsy, Senator Roy Canata, Senator William Parkinson, Senator Duane Nicholas, Senator Chris Duenas, Vice Speaker Tina Rose Munoz-Barnes, Senator Jesse Luana, and Senator Amanda Shelton. An act to appropriate $400,000 from fiscal year 2024 general fund revenues collected in excess of the adopted levels enumerated in Public Law 37-42 as amended to the Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs relative funding the GUÅHAN Doula project. With that, fiscal note request was requested on June 27, 2024. Fiscal note was received and disseminated to all senators via email by the Committee on Rules on July 3rd. Those participating on behalf of Bill 318-37 are invited to the panel. We have folks, specifically Tia Uggan. Oh, you got written testimony. Oral testimony will be provided by Sharon O'Malan, Agnes White. I hope I didn't murder your last names, okay? Okay, and I guess just the two of them, Sharon O'Malan and Agnes White. Please come before the panel. There's only the two of you. We're just waiting for you to show up. There's only... Yeah.
It's right here. She's going to do a report.
Okay, everybody else submitted, identified for written testimony. Are you going to, whoever's going to provide oral testimony, come forward. Ma'am, don't be concerned about them. I'll control it. Just as soon as you're done, come up to the panel, please. Thank you. Don't worry. We'll wait for you. Okay, just the two of you so far, other than Ms. Oh, opposite. You got opposition. Okay. Okay. Okay, no problem. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, ma'am, just do what you need to do there. Don't worry about it. Whoever's here going to support or oppose, come before the panel. And I would hope that in the future you write down your old testimony so we'll know, because there's only two that was listed. Okay? So with that, I would begin with we'll begin first with the rules of engagement. Please provide my legislative staff with any document for photocopying and distribution. Panel members are asked to remain in the room for question or additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Question and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or motive of any senator or any individual is not testifying is not permitted. So folks, let's not attack each other here, okay? Otherwise, I'd have you removed. That's just as simple as that. Proper form decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for this proceeding. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form decorum will be restricted from participating and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues that have joined me this morning. We have Vice Speaker Tina Munoz-Barnes and the author of the bill, Senator Tom Fisher, Senator Chris Duenas, Senator Jesse Luan, and my Vice Chair, Senator Tello Taidiwi. All right? And with that, I'd ask Senator Fisher to give his opening statement on his bill that he's authored.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for hearing this bill in an expedited fashion, and thank you to everybody who's come to testify on this bill. I think that we are going to hear this morning that Guam has an extraordinarily high rate of maternal mortality as well as infant mortality. This bill, this doula bill, is designed to alleviate or in some way begin to attack the problem of this mortality. Infant and maternal, we have the highest rate in the nation. And we've got to do something about it. And no one here, I think, believes that the amount of money we're putting into the doula project is a panacea that will solve the problem, but it most certainly is a beginning. And it is a demonstration of our commitment to help everyone in the community, from the wealthiest to the indigent, to the people who are most marginalized. And particularly it helps infants. I did not come to this bill, sua sponte. It was a combination of work by everybody at this table. I can't tell you how grateful I am for the support I've received in the Senate, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for the support I've received in the community for this bill. So thank you very much. This was not it wasn't an effort by one person. It was an effort by the Bureau of Women's Affairs. It was an effort by Senator Joe San Agustin's office and Senator Tina and, well, all of us up here to get this moving forward as quickly as we possibly can. I'm not going to speak too much more on the bill because we have experts in the room to talk about the project, and I'm really eager to share the information that they have. And I'm, I don't want to blow my own horn here, but I am proud to be part of this process. And with that, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, sir. Senator Fisher. With that, we'll begin with Ms. Jane Flores, because you're director from Bureau of Women's Affairs. So we'll begin with you, and then followed by left or right?
Stevie?
Tia?
Teen.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we'll go. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Flores.
Hafaday, Senator San Agustin, and honorable committee members. I'm Jane Flores. I'm the director of the Bureau of Women's Affairs for the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration. Si Jus Masi for your willingness to consider funding the GUÅHAN Doula project through Bill 31837. This bill presents an innovative approach to helping reduce Guam's alarming maternal and infant mortality rates, which are much higher than the national average, as the bill's statement of need states. Many of the deaths included in these rates are preventable if we can get to the women early in their pregnancies. As we are all aware, access to prenatal care is an issue on our island for several reasons. At Guam Memorial Hospital, officials tell us that 17 to 20% of the women who walk into GMH to give birth have never seen a doctor. Doulas are a proven way to help with this issue. Trained doulas help women to have healthy pregnancies and healthy babies in non-medical, culturally appropriate ways. Doulas are a first line of defense against maternal and infant mortality. They support women physically and emotionally throughout pregnancy and childbirth, helping them with healthy eating habits, exercise tips, emotional support, and collaboration with medical personnel. During labor, they reassure and encourage, help with changing positions, breathing, massage, and relaxation. Doulas are often the first to recognize the symptoms of postpartum depression in a client, and they assist new mothers with breastfeeding issues and other concerns. While this proposed GUÅHAN Doula program is innovative for Guam, studies from the National Institute of Health, the March of Dimes, and other entities show that doulas are a proven approach to helping communities have more positive birth outcomes, both for mother and for baby. In a National Institute of Health study published in May 2023, the authors noted that the results of the study showed that the expectant mothers matched with a doula had better birth outcomes, were 4 times less likely to have a low birth weight baby, were 2 times less likely to experience a birth complication, and were significantly more likely to initiate breastfeeding. I've provided links to additional studies showing the effectiveness of doulas as a tool to help women have healthier pregnancies and healthier babies in my written testimony. The effectiveness of doula services with regard to reaching women with challenges to access to prenatal care is such that so far 12 states and Washington, D.C. have included doula services in their state Medicaid programs. One state, Rhode Island, now requires that doula services be covered by private insurance plans, and 6 other states are working to follow Rhode Island's lead because of the data showing the effectiveness of doula services with regard to more positive pregnancy and birth outcomes, meaning healthier mothers and healthier babies. Governor Lou Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio recognize the value of doula services to the women of Guam and support doula services being added to the government of Guam's health insurance plan as well as Guam's state Medicaid plan. The Bureau of Women's Affairs is meeting with medical professionals on our island, including OBGYNs, and with professionals at Guam Memorial Hospital. We've also met with the Medicaid team at the Department of Public Health and Social Services regarding adding doula services to our Guam State Medicaid plan. We have support from these entities and professionals for this collaborative effort to help reduce our infant and maternal mortality rates, and we hope to have your support as well. We are also meeting with women from our Micronesian island communities on Guam to include them in this training and to help more women to access doula services and prenatal care in culturally sensitive ways. We humbly ask for your support of this valuable program. Doulas will make a positive difference for our mothers and our babies, and healthy mothers have healthy babies, and healthy babies grow into healthy children and families, so this program really benefits our entire community. Si Jus Masi for the opportunity to testify strongly in favor of Bill 31837.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Ms. Uggan, Tia Uggan, Munya Uggan.
Good morning, everyone. The first testimony that I'll be giving is on behalf of Ms. Flora Ann Asanoma. Hafa day, everyone. I'm Flora Ann Asanoma, and today I'm going to be sharing my doula service testimonial. Like a lot of you, I had no idea what a doula was. I was ecstatic to learn that I was expecting, and on the other hand, I was afraid of giving birth. I was terrified because of movies and stories I had heard. How would I get through this? I kept asking myself. What would I learn? What should I learn? And what do I do? All of these thoughts ran through my mind until I met Tia. According to Google, a doula is a woman who is employed to provide guidance and support to a pregnant woman during labor. All of that and more was provided by Tia and her services. She assisted me not just during labor, but also in the pre- and postpartum phases. Tia was present at my appointments when my partner was unable to be with me, and having a doula during my checkup allowed me to feel more at ease, as she assured that I understood everything the doctor said. I occasionally would find myself listening during my appointments, but not fully comprehending. Tia was able to retell the doctor's words in a way that made sense to me. Before I gave birth, Tia and I met to finish off my birth intentions. As soon as I became a mom, there were some things I knew I wanted during my labor and some things I didn't know about. In figuring out what I wanted and how to stand up for myself, Tia was able to support and mentor me through the process. She provided all the support I needed when I was in labor. She made sure that my birth intention was followed by the physicians and nurses. During my 3-day labor, I had emotional support, humor, and freedom to walk around my hospital room. What people don't realize is that doula support doesn't only benefit the mother, but also the father. Tia helped my partner support me emotionally, and she was able to give him support as well. She also helped me navigate a difficult and drawn-out labor. Without doula services, I don't think my birth would have been easy and quick, but because of her guidance and listening to my body, I was able to have a magical birth experience. After almost 3 months postpartum, I feel great mentally, physically, and emotionally thanks to doula services. Having a doula truly gave me the confidence to advocate for myself during my labor and for my baby. and I highly recommend having a doula to all mamas, experienced or soon to be experienced. If someone were to ask me if I would hire a doula again, I would reply absolutely without hesitation. Thank you for reading Flor Ann Asanoma. On behalf of myself, my name is Tia Munya Ugin, and I'm a wife and a mom of 3, and also a doula who serves locally here on island. It was important for me to be a trauma-informed doula, to be able to provide services for people here and abroad, and be able to serve them at any given capacity, meeting them where they're at. When I first was invited to have a conversation with Senator Tom Fisher, Ms. Jane Flores, Livia Murati, I was really excited to share about what I do as a doula. I had no idea that that conversation would lead us to where we are today, but I am extremely hopeful for the potential of the passing of Bill 13837. Having served 3 families here on island so far, and 1 in Maryland, I only hope that we can potentially serve and give access to more people here locally. When I think of the mothers that I served already from January to now, and the 3 families that I currently have on my calendar, I think about all the ways that we are helping and empowering them. I think about the thoughts and the questions that they have during pregnancy, their fears, like what Ms. Flora mentioned in her testimony, as well as all of the different things that run through their minds, whether that is their desires, their fears again regarding their labor process, and even their past experiences and potential trauma. And I think about all of the different things that I'm able to offer them as a doula: support, education, advocacy, and hopefully the opportunity to empower them on this sacred journey of birth. When I think about their labor and delivery, I think about how we honor and how we support them in that process. If we can provide different comfort measures, different breathing techniques, because I want to at all costs try to avoid any type of birth trauma for mama and baby to have those healthy mother, healthy baby outcomes. I think about their journeys postpartum, and I think about the things in my own experience and how I had no idea with my second baby that I was experiencing postpartum rage. I think about how many women face postpartum depression, how they're facing many things mentally that might not be shared with people, and also the lack of support and safety they might have in sharing those things. And I think about my own story, and I think about what it would look like if I had that support, or if I felt safe enough to have that support. I think about all of these different things and what I'd be able to do as a doula here, as a trauma-informed doula. And then I think about how I'm only one person. And I think about how in December I was trained with 12 other women, and I think about our island and how many people are here, how many women are currently pregnant, how many women might become pregnant, and how we can continue to serve them. I'm so grateful that this bill is being talked about and spoken about here, and I hope that you will consider supporting this, because it offers the possibility for better outcomes, and really it comes back to bringing it back full circle as a village support. When I think about this bill, I think about the potential for all sorts of possibilities, most especially with the mother, baby, and family in mind, and I hope that you'll consider supporting this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Ms. Ugin. We have Kirsten Rosario. That's you, right? Go ahead and pronounce your first name so that I didn't
Hafade,
murder it.
everybody. Can you hear
Okay.
me? Yes. Hafade, my name is Kirsten Rosario. I am a local sign language interpreter serving the underserved here on Guam. I'm an educator with the Guam Community College and our newly charter school down in Agate. And then I'm also a very big advocate for the deaf and hard of hearing community. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about why this service is needed for the deaf and hard of hearing community. We go through many disparities with language access, and so with that advocacy and having a doula or having someone that has served the underserved community for over 14 years, alongside with many interpreters who have served 35 plus years, have seen lots of language disparities happening in our medical and community, interpreting places here on Guam, serving deaf women, leaving deaf women to pull a family member to come and help them interpret, also not having, being able to contact 911. We are then called upon. And I'm here to support this bill, and knowing that I am a sign language interpreter with my team of interpreters, that we are able to serve this community, this underserved community, with the doula work and the training that's been provided by Birth Workers of Color Collective. Thank you for giving me this time. I also written a little testimony as well, if you can give me some time to read it. So, Sijus Maasi, thank you for taking the time to hear our stories. I've been working as an interpreter for over 14 years, alongside of the most heartful interpreters who have been doing this work for over 35 years. As a liaison for language access, it has been the biggest disparity on our island. Imagine this. You take up ASL courses at GCC, find out that there are not enough courses to get you a certificate, so you advocate for that program knowing that only a fourth of the island understands this language. The fourth of the island is dependent on you for communication, because on Guam, let's be real, a deaf person cannot call 911 or tell their family member their daily struggles, and most have limited in English reading skills. We have seen in and out the lack of prenatal care, medical advice and attention, and protocols to provide individuals who are LEP or speak another language. To receive sufficient and ample services, deaf women are required to bring their own interpreters, write in English, and are discriminated by medical staff and healthcare providers not even knowing it. Deaf women will have to rely on family members who are unqualified due to the lacking of educational awareness and in our medical community interpretation. This is also a breach or gap in our confidentiality and patients' rights to not have qualified interpreters, and usually it is the most forgotten. Yet these individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing are supported by laws such as the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, Title VI, and Guam's very own Executive Order 2015-015. We have to follow our cultural belief of Anafa Malik to make it good for everyone, not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have, I think it's a Stevie, or is that? Please pronounce your name so that we get it right.
My name is Stevie Marino, like Stevie Wonder. Yeah. Or Nix, if that's your. Thank you for having me. Hafa Day, I'm honored to stand before you all as a mom, as the founder and trainer of Birth Workers of Color Collective, as a medical anthropologist who studies and researches Chamorro birth traditions, practices, and also the overwhelming disparities that we face, and also as a proud Chamorro woman. This is really a historic moment, and I really want to acknowledge and say that. I'm very proud of this island of Guam, of all of you here who are in support of this bill. I've been doing this work for over 9 years, but it feels like lifetimes. I have my 9-year-old with me today who is super ecstatic to be here. I have had the privilege to train over 500 culturally relevant doulas around the world, including the 13 in Guam and many other Chamorros and Pacific Islanders stateside. I have had the ability over the years to be a part of advocacy efforts around doulas, including Medicaid, doula benefits, intentional collaborations with medical providers and hospitals, but I have not ever seen a bill that looks like this. In all of the states that I've worked in all of these years, people don't often look to Guam as the model for innovative solutions, for being ahead of the curve. But today, and in this moment, I'm proud that we are saying maternal and infant health and mortality is a crisis, and we have to do more, and so we are. I humbly ask that you all support this bill, that you honor the work of the 13 doulas, some who are here, some who are not, and the doulas who will come after these doulas, and all the Surahanas before us, for our Saina, and that we really honor the women and babies who we have lost on this island due to preventable death. Despite any distracting claims that might be made today, this bill aims for one thing, and that is evidence-based approaches to combat our maternal and infant health statistics with culturally relevant and sensitively trained doulas. I strongly urge the legislator and all vested parties to unanimously approve and support this historic bill that will leverage Guam as one of the first to uplift and champion doulas, create economic opportunities, and support this innovative strategy to address maternal health, while ultimately supporting the legacy of Surahanas before us, again, the doulas who stand before you, and all who come after. Viva GUÅHAN and Sana Ma'asi.
Thank you. Now, yeah, Stevie, do you have a copy of your testimony?
I do. I will send it in. So
Please.
apologies. Yes.
Thank you. We have, gosh, I'm pronounce your name. I just want to make sure.
Hi, my name is Jelena Santos.
Zelena, okay. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, esteemed members of the Guam Legislature. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of the bill 31837. My name is Jelena Santos again, and I am here to share my personal experiences with prenatal and postnatal care and to emphasize the critical need for this support in our community. I also just wanted to add that my family's from Sinahania. I have been a journalist here on Guam. I am also one of the 13 doulas that trained in December and am currently in training. So, throughout my pregnancy, I rarely saw the same provider twice at my prenatal appointments. I gave birth at Sagua Minyagu, by the way, in 2021. This lack of continuity in care was unsettling and contributed to a sense of uncertainty and anxiety. Midway through my pregnancy, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. Despite being assigned to a specialist, I did not have consistent follow-up appointments, which left me feeling isolated and worried about my health and that of my baby. When it came time to deliver, I met my OBGYN for the first time when I was ready to push. This was a moment when familiarity and trust with my healthcare provider could have made a significant difference in my comfort and confidence. Unfortunately, sorry, I lost my place. Unfortunately, my delivery was complicated by a hemorrhage, necessitating a blood transfusion at GMH. The aftermath of this traumatic experience was further compounded by my diagnosis of postpartum depression. Navigating postpartum care was incredibly challenging, as there was no single person to guide me through this process. If I had access to a doula, my journey through pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum recovery would have been markedly different. Doulas provide continuous, personalized support that is often missing in our current healthcare system. They build relationships with expectant mothers, understand their unique needs, and offer emotional, physical, and informational support throughout the prenatal, birthing, and postpartum periods. This kind of support can significantly reduce stress and improve outcomes for both mothers and babies and their families. Moreover, doulas offer home visits, which are not typically provided by medical professionals. By getting to know clients in their home environments, doulas can better assess the levels of support that an expectant mother and her family need. The personalized care can help identify potential issues early and provide tailored support to address them, ensuring healthier outcomes for families. The role of a doula is complementary. I'm going to say that again. The role of a doula is complementary to the care provided by medical professionals. Doulas work alongside doctors, nurses, and midwives to ensure that mothers receive comprehensive, compassionate care. They are advocates, educators, and trusted companions during one of the most critical periods in a woman's life. In conclusion, funding for birth workers and doulas in Guam is not just an investment in individual families, but in the health and well-being of our entire community. It is a step towards a more supportive, informed, and compassionate healthcare system. I urge you to support this bill and help provide expectant mothers and their families with the vital support they need to have the healthiest possible outcomes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Please provide your testimony in writing, please.
Oh, yes, I emailed.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, only because we got a pile of testimony. I just wanted to make sure it's in.
Yes, no, thank you.
Ivana, or, no? She's not, okay. We're gonna go to Sharon O'Malley. Ma'am, if you can just pronounce your name, if you're here, Sharon, so make sure I didn't destroy it in any form.
No,
or
you did
fashion.
okay with my name. Sharon O'Malley.
O'Malley, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay. Before I read my testimony, I would like to add a couple of things too. I'm listening to all the birth trauma stories. I can say I've had 4 children, and I've had very traumatic labors and delivering myself. Each woman has a different level of pregnancy. No matter how much I went to the doctor, how much care and support I had, I ended up 4-day labor with my first forceps, the works. I think I did everything correct, the best doctors and everything. My easiest delivery and birth was just 1 day with my son. And if anyone knows my son, Robert, he's my lifeline cross. So I'm just saying, I've experienced many different labors. And then my daughter, my oldest, when she had her first baby, she did everything correct. She even had the whole smoke screen, guitars, music playing in the background. It was just, I'm standing there like, wow, okay, this is like a modern day birth in a birthing center. Ended up in an ambulance, having to have an emergency C-section. So no matter how well we plan or how well we think we can go, every labor and delivery is different for everybody. And that's where I just wanted to start. Okay. Now, dear Senators, St. Augustine, and all senators, I write this testimony opposing Bill number 318-37. People may ask, why would anyone oppose something like a doula bill when, as you read the bill, it sounds as though this group is the saving grace for Guam and all women? I think not. This bill, number 318-37, is to put $500,000 towards a project which has quite a few issues that disturb me. $500,000 is a lot of money, and from what I have heard, this is just the seed money with more to come. I have actually started reading and researching the doulas back in January of this year. A doula, which only takes about 3 days to be certified, is a person who charges for their services. So they are trying extremely hard to find ways to get paid by insurance companies as well as government monies via Medicaid. Why is our money-strapped government putting taxpayer money into a money-making industry as seed money and planning to give more down the road? Some concerns that are that there are no regulations for doulas here on Guam, and I believe most places don't have regulations. Who will oversee this doula project besides the Bureau of Women's Affairs? There are no laws written or vetted or have gone through a regular legislative process. Who monitors them? Do they fall under Guam Public Health Agency, Department of Parks and Rec, Department of Revenue and Taxation? From reading on sites under different states, the question of who to file a complaint against has come up often since there is no governing body for doulas. A trainer comes in and trains these people, and then they go out on their own. They become the responsibility of who? Since a government agency is planning to get the money and oversee this unregulated industry, are they going to be the ones to complain against? This bill brings up the Chamorro Surahana and the Patera and says that the GUÅHAN Doula project is a cultural birthright and reclamation. Cultural competency in action. I will discuss the Surahana and Patera briefly. Chamorro Surahana have been on Guam as far back as I know and are still here. No one has stopped the practice of the Surahana. Current activists will lead you to believe that the U.S. government has stopped them. Reading on the history of Pateras, which in Spanish means midwife, the U.S. Navy in 1910 to 1967 started a Patera training. They saw the continued need of local Surahanas and offered them the chance to be medically trained. Pateras were trained for 3 years. 3 years of medical training versus 3 days for a doula. These Pateras were then licensed and encouraged to go into the villages and work within their villages to do more than just deliver babies. The U.S. Navy did not stop them from practicing their herbal medicines. They just enriched them with other knowledge to be used. Pateras could either get paid for their work or not. Pateras often did not take cash for payment and sometimes just received goods as payment. To continue being a patera, one had to seek recertification training as a means of continued learning. This patera training empowered the patera to go out and do much for the island. In 1930, a structured curriculum was established. In 1952, the patera nurse midwife training stopped because the U.S. military ended with the Organic Act of 1950. So the civilian government took over. The entire patera and midwife training has led up to the current nursing programs of today. Nurses and midwives are very important professions which serve a vast majority of the island of Guam and all ethnic and cultural people. So who would we wish to be better funded? A group of non-medical trained individuals who are for profit and only serve a portion of people, or a group who is medically trained and serves the entire population of Guam? As a pro-life person, the Doula Project is also seen as a way to bring in unregulated abortions. The GUÅHAN Doula Project aims to train full-spectrum doulas, which means that these doulas will be also known as abortion doulas. They do not hide this fact that they are trying to increase abortion access to the island. It is discussed in various news stories which came out when talking about the doulas. So one of my concerns is this: are doulas following Guam abortion law? If an abortion doula takes care of an abortion, does he or she know that they are required to file an abortion report with Guam Vital Statistics? Or if a doula assists a woman who is experiencing a complication due to an abortion, the doula must also file an abortion complication report, even if he or she did not instigate the abortion. Do abortion doulas know that there is an informed consent law and that there are certain license qualifications that the person handling the abortion must have? This is all in Guam's laws. Who holds a doula accountable for following the law? The Birth Workers of Color Collective, which Ms. Stevie Marino and the Bureau of Women's Affairs is pushing, have on their websites information about an application for the abortion doula program. Every news stories about the doula program speak of making abortion access easier. And, you know, I italicize, we are there for you. So, if we are giving away $500,000 to this program, why are we not giving the same amount to other places which offer free help and services to anyone seeking help before, during, and after a pregnancy? Places like Safe Haven Pregnancy Center, Catholic Social Service, Harvest House, Rachel's Vineyard Guam, etc. All these places offer free help and services and do not get the same loving care as doulas, it seems. These groups have been around for years and work out of the love and generosity of their hearts. If you give this money to an unvetted and unregulated industry as the doulas, you are opening the floodgates for the rights of all to ask for future and same consideration. Can you afford this? Senators, I ask you to do your research and understand that this seemingly innocent bill represents it is going to kick you in the butt. And senators, please stop treating your general public as uneducated people who we do understand what is going on here. Do not pass this bill 318-37. Thank you for your taking the time to listen.
Thank you, Ms. O'Malley.
Thank you, sir.
Agnes White?
You pronounced that very well, Senator. That's correct.
That was an easy one.
Exactly. White, just plain Jane White. Okay. Hafaday, Senator San Agustin, members of the 37th Guam Legislature. My name is Agnes Malilai White. I was born and raised here on Guam. I am a mother of 6, and as Sharon had mentioned, we all have our different ways that we have brought our children into this world, and some of my experiences have been what you call traumatic, but we continue on. So I'm a mother of 6, was C-sectioned for the first one, an emergency C-section, but the other 5 delivered naturally, and one of them even at Sagwa, Manyagu. I reside in the village of Tamuning, where I am a registered voter. I am also a registered nurse and have been practicing for almost 4 decades, some years in the states of Missouri and New York, but most of them here on Guam. I would like to share 3 concerns that I have about Bill 318-37 regarding the funding of a GUÅHAN Doula project. But before I share my concerns, I want you to know that I am professionally involved in training community health workers in the areas of diabetes self-management, education and support, and chronic disease management. So I fully appreciate the role that trained lay people without formal health education can play in promoting the health and well-being of our people. Moreover, I fully support efforts to mitigate the dismal maternal and infant mortality statistics mentioned in the legislative intent of the bill. With that said, my criticisms are, firstly, it is unfortunate that public discussion by citizens promoting this bill seem to reveal that this bill has some nefarious purposes and questionable underpinnings as well. In an article by the NBCU Academy dated March 28, 2024, about the Birth Workers of Color Collective's Doula program, a participant decried the lack of abortion facilities on Guam. In the same article, other participants were inspired by the program to become abortion doulas. And that training is one of the programs that Bill 318-37 intends to fund, abortion doula training. So my first concern is that this bill is a Trojan horse that purports to reduce maternal and infant mortality, but will be really used by the Bureau of Women's Affairs to encourage the killing of unborn tomorrow babies. How can you state on page 4, line 12, that this GUÅHAN Doula project will be an additional tool to reduce Guam's maternal and infant mortality rates by at least 1/3 when you're killing the very people you want to protect, preborn babies in the womb? My fears are reasonable considering the vigorous efforts that the Bureau of Women's Affairs has made consistently and recently in support of bills that are vehemently pro-abortion. Bills 162-37 and 111-37, and opposition to 291-36, which was the Heartbeat Act of 2022. Secondly, this bill contains no mechanisms whatsoever for the public vetting and approval of the content of the doula education programs that it will fund. You are asking for almost $500,000, but I don't know as a taxpayer where and how my money will be spent. It seems that you have circumvented all the mechanisms and that demand accountability and responsibility for so large an amount. Imagine almost $500,000 of taxpayer money. Some of it is my money too. Lastly, the language of this bill must be perfectly clear that participants in any doula education who become certified by your organization will not in any sense be considered qualified persons to provide informed consent to patients prior to any medical procedure, but especially pursuant to the provisions of Title 10 regarding informed consent prior to an abortion procedure. Doulas certified by the Birth Workers of Color Collective, the organization that the Bureau of Women's Affairs proposes to work with, are not trained healthcare professionals. In many of the testimonies that we heard, that was echoed. They are non-medical, culturally appropriate individuals, knowledgeable in the ways of our culture, and they can assist the women during pregnancy. They are not licensed by the territory or state, which ensures that they have a certain level of competency in the area of practice, and that this competency is met in order to provide safe health care. They are trained rather to walk with the mom before, after, during pregnancy, and after the baby is born, to provide support and care and allay fears and encourage healthy behaviors and attitudes, and to advocate for the mother, because they understand the culture and are culturally sensitive and competent. Yes, this is very important. But being qualified to obtain informed consent before a medical procedure, especially an abortion, is reserved for healthcare professionals who are recognized and licensed by the state or territory to have met the necessary requirements as demanded by their profession to practice safely. A doula program that truly advocates for both mother and child is one that reflects the values of our island culture, namely the unwavering support of friends, the dignity of women and motherhood, the inherent beauty of childbearing, the incredible gift of children, the unconditional love of family, and deep faith in the providence of God. A doula program that embraces these values will certainly reduce Guam's maternal and infant mortality rates way beyond 1/3. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. White. And with that, I would ask my colleagues if they have any questions with this panel, because okay. We're going to ask them to stay here. No, Tom wants, we just ask the question, be done with that. And then we get the next group. Okay, what we're going to do is, I'm going to open for questions from the author first to the panel here, and then the panel will be asked, you'll be released from the panel. You can hang around, you can stay and listen, but then we have 3 other individuals that are going to testify. And with that, I'd open it first to the author of the bill, Senator Tom Fisher, and then proceed to Senator Chris Duenas, then Senator GUÅHAN, and then back this direction. Thank you. Senator Fisher.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to all the panelists for your testimony. The first question would be to the Bureau of Women's Affairs, Ms. Flores. We heard testimony from Ms. O'Malley and Ms. White characterizing the doula program, and also they went so far as to say that there appeared to be some sort of a, excuse me just a minute. Okay, there was even a suggestion that there was a nefarious purpose behind the bill. And Ms. Flores, I was just going to ask you, I assume that you paid attention and heard what Ms. O'Malley said and Ms. White said. Do you have a comment on that? That there's a nefarious purpose behind this, and, the various machinations?
It's unfortunate that Ms. O'Malley and Ms. White are misinformed about the intentions of this bill. This bill is a life-affirming bill that is in no way trying to promote anything except women getting access to doulas, helping women to get access to prenatal care and have healthier pregnancies and healthier babies. We are trying to address Guam's infant and maternal mortality rates in a way that is non-medical. Doulas are not medically trained personnel. They are trained, and the bill does have parameters by which a doula training is accepted. And we are working with public health and with GMH, and I think you will read in one of your testimonies that Dr. Mariana Cook-Hune is submitting about the need for doulas. She actually wants doulas to be on call at the hospital because they have women who speak different languages, she told us a story when we met with her about having to call a janitor who speaks Chuukese because they had a woman in labor and they didn't know anything about her. She had not been seen by a doctor before. They didn't know what she was saying, so they had to call someone who spoke Chuukese, and it happened to be a janitor at GMH, and she said we didn't know what she was telling her, and so this training is for people to help women to have healthier babies in non-medical ways. You can help women to eat better, to get exercise, just to allay their fears. And that is what this bill does. And I would like to let the doulas respond to some of the misinformation that Ms. O'Malley and Ms. White have purported to say here.
Okay, all right. And perhaps, if given an opportunity, they will do so. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to kind of jump around here a little bit. You mentioned an incident at the Guam Memorial Hospital in which a lady who spoke the Chuukese language was having difficulty. Although this is $400,000 we're setting aside, and it's characterized as seed money. Nobody, again, as we said earlier, I don't think anybody believes this is the answer to everything.
No.
If this bill passes and as you move forward, do you anticipate a situation in which you will be, doulas will be working with communities that have different languages from us?
Absolutely. This bill will provide training for doulas and also community doula work, where doulas will go into communities of different cultures and have group doula training for the women, because often women are afraid to go to the doctor, or they don't know how to access the doctor. And so these doulas will be working with church groups, with mayor's offices, especially because we find that our indigent communities are the ones that need this help the most. And that's where the maternal and infant mortality rates are the biggest. And they're actually the largest in the Chamorro communities, the Chamorro indigent communities. And so this bill will reach out to those communities and try to help these women with non-medical ways, because medical ways are expensive. Okay. And this is a way that has been proven in other communities to help, especially communities of color, as Stevie will tell you, to have healthier birth outcomes, healthier mothers and healthier babies.
Okay. All right, thank you for that answer. I look around the room, ma'am, and you mentioned an indigent community and particular health challenges, communities that are challenged in that way experience. I look around the room and I see a room full of people who have health insurance. I would characterize this room as full of rich people. We're not the Rockefellers. We're not the Rockefellers, but most of us have a roof over our head. Most of us had breakfast this morning. Most of us have transportation to come to this building to speak about this. I don't think that's true. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't think that's true.
No, you're exactly right, Senator. This is why this bill wants to reach into these communities, because we have women who don't have ways to get to the doctor or the hospital, but they can walk to their village mayor's office or their community center, and they can learn how to be healthier during pregnancy, not to smoke, not to drink, to have healthier babies. And this is why this bill is important, because getting these services, and these doulas this is an industry that is growing in the community and getting paid by Medicaid to help women who are indigent. And that's why it is now on the Medicaid plans of 12 states and growing.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's very important. I know that you agree that we reach all communities in Guam with these services, regardless of your income and regardless of your language. Just a short follow-up on that. Ma'am, in your experience, have you noticed whether or not separate communities on island, the Carolinian community, the community from the FSM, wherever, are there different cultural norms and practices and beliefs attached to This is just a follow-up to moving out into other communities. Do other communities have different needs that are, you know, exclusive to them?
I'm going to let Stevie answer that one.
Yes, so we've been meeting with different cultural groups and ethnic groups, and you know, across the board, the need, that's why it's so emphasized in this bill about cultural competency and relevancy, because there are different needs. Since I've been on island for the last 3 weeks, essentially, I've met with different women who are pregnant or postpartum, and they've all expressed that, you know, going to the doctor and being told, oh, this thing that you're doing that is cultural is stupid, or it could kill your baby because you're drinking tea that maybe, you know, has been in their family for years, right? Like being able to understand that once your doctor, your care provider tells you something like that, now the desire is going to be, oh, I'm going to approach this either with dishonesty in, you know, upcoming meetings or appointments, or I'm just not going to mention these culturally relevant things. And that could be risky, especially if they are taking other medications that could be, you know, have negative effects and things of that nature. And I think just generally what we have found is that especially those who are recent migrants, there's a lot of intact cultural practices that maybe do not translate in the hospital settings. And a lot of that is based and rooted in your community and village support, which is a lot more harder to access here if you don't have a roof over your head, if you don't have transportation, if you don't have access to healthy foods and all of those different things. And so training doulas in those communities who are trusted is going to be one of the best ways to reach that population.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I know that it is true that we have thousands of people on island who do not have roofs over their head, who do not have access to clean water, who do not have access to safe, dependable, responsive medical care. This is a step towards that. And there's other people on the panel here, and they want to ask questions too, so I'm going to hurry up. Ms. Flores, in your opening testimony, well, first of all, I think you've said this, but is there objective evidence that the doula programs help in decreasing maternal mortality rates?
Absolutely. The National Institutes of Health, the March of Dimes, several studies have been done, many studies have been done, which is why this is an inexpensive, non-medical way to do outreach and help people. It's not in any way, shape, or form taking the place of doctors. Doulas do not deliver babies. They are not pateras. They help the women during the delivery, but they are not the one delivering the baby.
Okay.
And so that's an important component to know, is that they are a non-medical bridge to the medical community. If women go to a doula, say in a Micronesian community, and Stevie, interrupt me if you have anything to say about this.
Yeah.
For example, if a doula is in a non-medical setting and their client or one of the clients says, you know, I'm experiencing this, the doula can help her to go to the doctor, say, hey, this is something that you need to be seen, and they can actually help her to go to the doctor, whereas she would not know this. And that's part of the issue, is that a lot of the women in these indigent communities or these outlying communities just do not know. They don't have the knowledge. And that's what this program is trying to do. It is funding outreach and education about being healthy, about having a healthy baby, how you can do this. And doulas are a non-medical, inexpensive way to do this. I would just like to say something about this $400,000 pilot program. We anticipate this to be kind of a one-shot deal. We get this program going, and then the trained doulas, trained within the parameters of the bill, because there is a mechanism in the bill by which you have to have the parameters of being a trained doula, then they go out in the community. They're funded by Medicaid or funded by health insurance, and health insurance companies are doing this, and Medicaid is doing this because it is found to be an effective yet inexpensive way to help women have healthy babies and help them have access to prenatal care.
Thank you. Ms. Flores, I wanted to read something to you and ask you whether or not you agree with it. This is from the director of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, Teresa Areola. She says that statistics show Guam as having higher maternal and infant mortality rates than the mainland United States. Guam's maternal mortality ratio of 29.4 from 2008 to 2017 is 24% higher than the U.S. rate. Guam's infant mortality rate was 10.71 per 1,000 births, but the U.S. infant mortality rate was 5.44, significantly different in the mainland.
These are numbers that were revealed during the Maternal Health Summit last year given by the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Do you agree?
Yes.
Do you agree? I'm gonna hurry up. Oh, okay. Now I'll leave it up to my friend Senator Tina, because I know she's got some more questions about that. Just a few more questions, ma'am. One of the things that motivated me, I felt a certain, I don't know, an obligation to work on this bill, was because I learned, and I confess my ignorance, I learned that about postpartum depression. And I had assumed, I think frankly, you know, I hate to be a sexist, but I think mostly men just assume that is just an episode of sadness. And what I have learned is that is not an episode of sadness. And Ms. Uggan, sorry, I'm sorry. Is postpartum depression, is it dangerous to the mother? And could you describe it? And the follow-up is postpartum depression that the mother is experiencing, is that dangerous to the infant?
It has the potential to be. There is a wide range and severity of postpartum depression, and it ranges on a case-by-case basis. When we think about postpartum depression, we should consider what the individual is going through. There are bouts of sadness. There are bouts of wanting to harm oneself and potentially even kill oneself. There are potential thoughts of harming or killing your infant or your baby, and also potentially harming or killing other members of the family, because there is this unsettling amount of a hormonal imbalance contributing to that postpartum depression. Does that?
Yeah, that answers the question very well. To me, when this exists, you've pointed out a very, very serious mental health issue that needs to be addressed. Is that a fair characterization?
Can you repeat that, sir?
Yeah, people going through these bouts of severe postpartum depression, that seems like a severe mental health issue that needs to be addressed. Do you agree?
Yes.
Can doulas help women through that process? For example, letting them know that their feelings are not unusual, or they're not alone in the process.
Yes, I think potentially depending on training, and with this bill in particular, a certain type of training and exposure, and even further trainings, we can definitely assist in that. This, as of right now, and even the conversations that I'm having with my clients who are currently postpartum, they're seeing their doctors anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks after delivery. And in between that time, there's thoughts and there's conversations and there's exhaustion and what I like to call the fourth trimester. And so within the first 2 weeks of delivery, I like to talk with my clients to see where they're at, how everything is going, and also just see if there is support at home or familial support that's helping them. Have they noticed any differences? And if there is, then how can we help support mom after birth with these things to reduce whatever potential risks are there, most especially in the mental capacity?
All right, thank you very much. And I'm going to wrap up with just a question to Ms. Rosario. I know that you are fluent in American Sign Language, and you work in the deaf and hard of hearing communities on Guam. You mentioned the fact that it's very, very difficult for that community to get emergency services.
Yes,
And
it
when I
is.
heard you say that, I just thought, wow, it must be very isolating
Yes, it is.
to be deaf and pregnant and not knowing how to get or how to get help. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Working alongside with 35 years of experienced interpreters, we had this discussion last night, writing this testimony to you, and just shockingly, not everybody gets that care, that communication in between doctor, nurse, and vice versa. A lot of the times, interpreters, because now we have a text messaging system. We never had a text messaging system 35 years ago, but I mean, now they automatically would text us if the doctor or medical staff doesn't understand them. And it is really hard to be the third person or the third party, especially if you're trying to promote confidentiality, right? And so this language access in all areas has to improve. And I think in regardless to knowing that we do have these disparities, we have laws in place to make sure that this is going to be the next thing we need to do for this underserved communities. And that also includes Title VI for the LEP community, which of other languages, right? And we are working alongside right now with the court system and the coalition to try and get these community medical interpreters, a listing of them, so that they can be added on to the next training. And I think this is a great benefit for our women here on Guam in the underserved communities or LEP communities here on Guam.
Thank you for that response. I've been very selfish with the time here, so I'm gonna shut up here. But I'd like to just thank all of you for being here. I am very proud to assist in this program. And I have to say, I got to say thank you to Senator Joe. If it wasn't for Senator Joe, this might be languishing for months and months, but he recognized the need to bring this forward. So thank you, Senator Joe San Agustin. And I believe Governor Lulian Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio also support the Doula project. So I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to them as well. Thank you, and Mr. Chair, with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. And before I proceed to Senator Chris Duenas, I received a text that there were several testimonies submitted that they asked Vice Speaker to read them. So I'd like to have it read, because it's like there's 4 of them, so that we can all pretty much get an understanding of what's coming in. All right, and then after that, after we complete everybody's question, we have 5 other individuals that are going to testify, for and against, and you'll be all excused, and they will come forward. Okay?
Mr. Chair, may I ask, is Department of Public Health and Social Service going to be here today?
No, but they did submit a testimony, and that's going to be read.
Thank you.
Because Senator Fisher only read parts of it, and I won't have Vice Speaker read it completely.
Okay,
So
but we
can
won't be
wrap
able
that
to
up.
ask them any questions.
That's correct.
That's the problem. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Vice?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This first one is from Barbara Malvnas. Hafaday, as a registered nurse with a master's in nursing education, a DONA-trained doula, not currently certified, an IBCLC lactation consultant, and Guam's only Lamaze instructor, I believe in supporting women during all phases of pregnancy, birth, and beyond. This bill offers seed money to secure an avenue for women to get services they otherwise could not access. I am in support of this bill if there are no disparities and doula services are available to all women, insured, indigent, MIP, Medicaid recipients, and likewise. Doula services are not new to our community, but a greater number of women are being trained in the field, and it is an evidence-based best practice likened to educational classes such as Lamaze, hypnobirthing, Bradley, and other childbirth classes. This knowledge and this service to our sisters in Guam will reduce the risk of C-sections and reduce maternal mortality rates noted in the bill. This has a potential cost savings for our medical bills. Saving just one life is worth it. Barbara C. Mothnas, RN, MSN, IBCLC. I want to inspire people. I want someone to look at me and say, because of you, I didn't give up. Second one. Good morning, members of the 37th Guam Legislature. I'm writing this letter in full support of Bill number 318-37. I am Teresita Perez, a longtime teacher here and also a doula in training. Based on my professional choice as well as my involvement with birth work, I hope it is clear that I am invested in the well-being of this community. The bottom line, beyond all the dogma you might hear, is that on average 10 infants of every 1,000 born on Guam do not see their first birthday. This statistic comes from the 2023 needs assessment done on maternal and infant health by the Health Resources and Services Administration, an agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Social Services. If the end goal is to help combat infant mortality, invest in doulas must be considered. Doulas are peri- and postnatal professionals trained in emotional and informational counseling for birth parents. Enough research shows that doula presence before, during, and after birth can reduce the rate of infant and maternal deaths, especially for our underserved and marginalized parents who may have who do not have equitable access to medical resources. The same research also note the drop in C-sections with the presence of a doula. Now, I gave birth in a big city without the support of my community, although I had top of the line medical support around me. While I came out of the C-section all right, my child struggled to gain weight. They kept us in the hospital for 3 days and 4 nights because of how much weight he had lost. I was alone, stressed, and really operating in a fog. After receiving doula training last December, all I kept saying to the group was, "Where were you all in 2001? I was in fact offered a doula prior to giving birth, but I wasn't informed exactly of what that role of that person would be, other than that she would provide support. The offer felt clinical, not an afterthought, and honestly, why would I want support from a stranger who had no idea who I was culturally speaking? The beauty of this doula project is that we are already diverse, and we intend to grow and encompass as many language groups as can to provide meaningful support to all parents to be on island, to be connected to the birth parent culturally and linguistically, to be an advocate for the parent, to work in tandem with the medical team, to be able to increase the chances of baby surviving past its first year of life. All of these are clear reasons to support doulas via support of this bill. Thank you. Teresita Perez. This one comes from Mariana Cook Wynn, MD, MPH. I'm here to testify in support of 318-37, which allocates funding to support the development of the GUÅHAN Doula project. My name is Mariana Cook Wynn, and I'm a family medicine obstetrician and one of 9 physicians who attend deliveries at GMH. The extremely limited access to prenatal care and infant mortality rate on Guam, as described in this bill, are truly unacceptable, and the women and children of Guam deserve better. If we do not care for women and children approximately, think of where they will leave our community in the future. I thank the authors of this bill for supporting efforts to improve pregnancy outcomes of the island. As a strong advocate of women health and women's rights, I believe that more doulas in the community will lead to improved outcomes. I have worked alongside several of our local doulas, and I'm very grateful for the additional emotional, physical and mental support they offer women and their loved ones throughout pregnancy, delivery, and postpartum care. The evidence showing improved outcomes with doula services and the interest in community members to become doulas is why this bill is important. I'm excited to have the opportunity to strengthen the relationship between doulas and medical professionals, including physicians, midwives, and nurses. While doulas are not medically trained, they are considered members of a care team. Doulas bring knowledge of the social and cultural aspects of what women need to be, why women need to be healthy during their childbearing years. They are useful members of the patient's healthcare team because they promote educational and patient autonomy during pregnancy, labor, and beyond. They can also help develop community outreach efforts to encourage women to get prenatal care and also promote healthy habits, such as good nutrition, regular exercise, and avoidance of substances in pregnancy. However, this legislation is just a stepping stone to solving the island's larger problem, which is the need for more access to prenatal providers and neonatal specialists. Doulas will be easier to train, and there will be more women's health advocates in the community. But there really needs to be more efforts on recruitment and retention to obstetrics providers to the island. There also needs to be a community education that midwives and family medicine obstetricians are qualified and capable to care for pregnant women. A majority of the OBGYN specialists are nearing retirement and will be left with the even less medical providers to care for our population. The legislature has to work with public clinics like the community health care centers and Total Guam to help hire more obstetrics providers. The legislature should also find funding to provide subsidies to private clinics wanting to provide care for Medicaid and MIP populations, or support a revision of the Medicaid state plan to increase reimbursement rates for prenatal care. I also ask senators to support funding of birthing centers to allow women an alternative to high intervention hospital delivery. I urge the senators to support this current Bill 318-37 and hope that it starts a cascade of more legislation to improve access to health care for women and children of Guam. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak in front of you today. It was signed Mariana Cook, MD, MPH, family member obstetrics. This next one is from the Acting Director of Public Health, Teresa Ciariola. Half a day, Committee Chair San Agustin, committee members, as well as members of the 37th Guam Legislature. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony of Bill 318-37 as altered by Senator Thomas Fisher, which would appropriate $400,000 to the Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs to fund the GUÅHAN Doula project. The Department of Public Health and Social Services is in support of the proposed measure and its intent to provide much-needed assistance to pregnant persons of Guam. Statistics show Guam as having higher maternal and infant mortality rates than the mainland United States. Guam's maternal mortality ratio, MMR, of 29.4 from 2008 to 2017 is around 24% higher than the U.S. MMR of 23.8 in 2020. Guam's infant mortality rate was 10.71 per 1,000 live births from 2017 to 2021, but the U.S. infant mortality was at 5.44 per 1,000 live births in 2021. It is no secret Guam has a shortage when it comes to medical specialties, including OBGYNs. The Department of Public Health and Social Services is actively exploring ways we can ensure pregnant persons get the medical attention they need to ensure they are healthy during prenatal period. Having a doula service available during pregnancy, during a live birth, and during the postnatal period will help to improve outcomes for prenatal persons and their children. It is important to note that doulas are not medical professionals. However, they play an important role in modern-day pregnancy and birth of newborns, especially in providing emotional and physical support. Doulas acts as a bridge between expectant mothers and their OBGYN, reminding mothers to attend prenatal care, watch their diet, be available for support calls, and calls when the expectant mother is going through a rough patch emotionally during their pregnancy. Think of a doula like a peer counselor for drug rehabilitation, or a sponsor for Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. This practice of peer counseling drastically improves the success of the drug and alcohol treatment, and it has been proven that doula services have been successful in an alcohol treatment, and has been proven that doula services have been in maternal and infant health outcomes, reduced C-sections and epidural use, shorter labor times, improved birth experience, lower risk of preterm birth and low birth weight, reduce anxiety and stress. In a study entitled Impact of Doulas on Healthy Birth Outcomes, published in Series in May 2023, Balcevic and Adler concluded that a source of support during birth could be the solution to negative outcomes for the mother and her baby. To improve the birthing experience and increase positive birthing outcomes, sources of support during pregnancy should be evaluated and understood. The goal of this review was to synthesize the existing literature on how doulas might improve birth outcomes. The eligibility criteria for this article selection included primary studies investigating how doulas contributed to the birth outcomes. The studies in this review indicated that doula guidance in perinatal care was associated with positive delivery outcomes, including reduced cesarean sections, premature deliveries, and length of labor. Moreover, the emotional support provided by doulas was seen to reduce anxiety and stress. Doula support, specifically in low-income women, have shown to improve breastfeeding and breastfeeding success with quicker lactogenesis and the continued breastfeeding weeks after childbirth. Doulas can be great resource of for birthing mothers, and consideration should be given to using them more as they have more positive impact on the well-being of a mother and child. This study raised questions about the accessibility of doulas and how they may help mitigate health disparities among women from different socioeconomic levels. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS, is encouraging the provision of doula services and has published the following statement in 2021. Community-based pregnancy and childbirth care. State Medicaid programs can cover community-based maternity services, such as those furnished by doulas and community health workers. In addition to Medicaid, requires states to cover services provided through freestanding birth centers and those provided by midwives with the scope of their state licensure. However, few states have robust networks of birth centers, midwives, doulas, or community health workers. CMS released guidance in December 2021 encouraging states to expand access to doula care, and will continue to work with states to expand access to these important services. CMS will work with the states and sister agencies to identify opportunities to expand and improve access to diverse maternity care workforce, including midwives and community-based practitioners, such as doulas and community health workers. Department of Public Health and Social Services has no real concerns with the language of Bill 318 as introduced, and stands ready and willing to provide the cultural competency course, which we already offer as mandated by Section 3 of the bill. Guam Medicaid is beginning to work with CMS to develop a state-planned amendment to expand its services to pregnant persons to include doula services. We believe this bill provides an important piece of the puzzle by establishing a vetting process that can be used by Medicaid and other insurers to determine who can qualify to provide doula services on the basis of relevant training. Guam Medicaid believes that extending doula coverage will not have a large impact to the program funding initially, but urges the Guam legislature that while the vast majority of its funding is federal, the local match must be there to pay for such services. And when we look at expanding services to additional individuals to cover new services or to increase reimbursements to existing services, we need both federal dollars and local dollars to ensure that our people have medical care they need. In closing, the department firmly supports Bill 318-37 as we believe it will lead to better outcomes for expectant mothers and our newborns. Thank you again for this opportunity. Teresa C. Ariola, MBA, Acting Director.
Okay, now we'll proceed to, I'd like to also recognize Senator Roy Canante for joining us. Senator Duenas, do you have any questions or comments for the panel?
Mr. Chairman, I'll have a few comments and I have two questions. This has certainly been an interesting morning, and so I'm glad everyone's here so we can debate the merits of this bill. I wanted to start by saying that if you come to my office, and I want to thank my office mates for this, sometimes you will think that you came to a nursery because I support women and their babies so much that I encourage my staff that if they need to have their children at work, we will make accommodations for that. I sometimes get compliments from those who come to visit me that they enjoy seeing the children as they walk in to meet with me in my office. So I want to make that clear on the record. Also, God has blessed me. Next month, I'll be going to be with my son and his wife to baptize our baby. I am a new grandfather, so I love babies. I love healthy babies, most especially because their mothers were taken care of. That's why I signed on to this bill. The third reason is that the much better half of my wholeness in life and has basically introduced me over 10 years to the world of the medical community. And one of the most glaring things that I've ever had to sit around and have lunch with or dinner or a happy hour with medical professionals is the severe, severe shortage of care for mothers and babies and prenatal care. In fact, many that are treating mothers who are having a complicated pregnancy or maybe even have lost their child will find out that most of those individuals in their entire pregnancy never saw a doctor. Never even understood, some of them, the requirement to have vitamins and different type of nutrition throughout their pregnancy. This is a sad state of affairs. That's a reality. And so when I read this bill, I thought, if I can help mothers and if I can help babies in any way, I certainly want to be a part of that. Having said that, there's been some interesting testimony, so I hope I don't make you uncomfortable, but I am going to ask the panel of ladies in support of this bill to answer what I posed as a yes or no question. And I hope you'll understand, but if you want to embellish, please proceed. But is it your intention with this funding source and this program, should it be stood up, to assist mothers who are pregnant, that are carrying a baby to term, to help them through that process, as well as any post-pregnancy needs that they would be having? Is that your true intention today as you appear before this committee?
Yes.
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 I don't know if my colleagues are going to agree with this potential if the bill hits the floor, but I plan to introduce an amendment. Of course, I understand HIPAA, and I understand, there's the various areas of disclosure, but I intend, and I don't have the full language written out right now, but I intend to propose an amendment that basically allows for an attestation that if you are serving under this program, that you would be serving and teaching and training on funding sources for those individuals to be providing care and attention under your training for those who are planning to assist mothers who plan to carry their children to term, to give birth to those babies, and the help afterwards going forward. So I just wanted to make that as part of the record. I know that, like I said, it may be disagreeable to others, may be agreeable. Hopefully it will be. But I want to ensure, because I know my heart is right. I know my intentions are right. And I'm hoping that, and praying, and I'm not going to question intentions, that everyone here really, really is here to make sure that the severe, severe shortage of treatment opportunities, of care for mothers, pregnant mothers, and babies to be is what we're trying to do here. We want to have as many babies born to term that are healthy and prepared to live healthy and productive lives. And so I'll continue to listen, but I want to be sure that, that I make it clear my intention. And I totally respect the testimony today. I'm going to listen and listen hard like I always do. But my point is that in my reading of the bill and my signature to the bill, nowhere did I have any reading or any information that provided for any type of activities outside of helping mothers and babies. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, panel. Yes, Senator Duenas is right. Who's my office mate as well. Sometimes you would mistake our office for a daycare. Between his staff and mine, he's got a newer born than one of my staff's, a little older born. But yeah, we share foldable tables and stuff, so the kids won't, the babies won't crawl out of their parents' workstations. But we encourage, and especially, the cost of daycare at this point, there are times that our staff incur hardships, and so they have to bring their babies to work. And so we, again, it's we have 3 of us in the office, and it's a daycare as well there. But and likewise, I signed on to this bill, knowing Ms. O'Malley knows my personal story in regards to my being pro-life. Highly involved in my church as well, and highly involved with my church Harvest and Harvest House. And I know the challenges. As a matter of fact, I encourage, because we're getting ready to, kids go back to school, and we're looking for backpacks. So please, if you have extra or you have anything, please, we welcome that. So thank you very much for that. And so my stance in pro-life hasn't changed, and it won't. So let me ask, as my good colleague, Senator Duenas asked, the doulas in training, all that, is this. Are any of the doulas train or counsel women to end life in the womb?
There are abortion doulas. I do want to be very clear with that. We will not deny that fact. I think that this bill has no language about abortion doula work. And so to use the legal right that people have to exercise whatever type of doula work that they want to do outside of this bill is contradictory to the statement of being pro-life, because this bill is, the only language that it has is that we will support pregnant women and babies to be able to have a full-term healthy birth, which is what you are all supporting. So I want to be very clear about that. As senators, as legislators, you all have made a claim to support the Constitution, to support people's legal rights. And so, again, this feels like a distraction to the actual aim of this bill. So yes, there are abortion doulas, and no, this bill does not have any hidden language that it will fund or pay or support abortion doula work.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to get clear because, again, in my read, and I guess unless it's written in invisible ink, I haven't seen anything that refers to that. And,
It is not.
and you know, of course, the three of us share offices. Of course, Senator Duenas and Senator Fisher, and we all respect each other's stands, and we all know each other's stands, and you know, we consult each other as well, and we wouldn't put each other in situations where it compromises their moral stands and values and things like that. And that's what I appreciate about our office is that we have diverse thought, but we respect the thought, and we will not cross over to interfere with the moral values of each senator. So I thank you very much for that. But in reading as such, I didn't read any wordage, verbiage or such. And again, I told the author, and I said, if there's anything that's related to, again, this is my personal opinion, okay, the ending of life, then I would not be involved. And I would remove my name from sponsorship, and I wouldn't vote for such a bill that will do as such. So thank you very much, ladies. And thank you very much, Mr. Mallon, and thank you very much for
Can I also add one point?
Sure.
You know, I think that when we talk about culturally competent doulas, I very much encourage pro-life folks to take doula training because they will be needed in this area of work as well. So if they are, you know, really on that end of we want to make sure that this is what is in alignment with our work and serve the people that we want to serve, I encourage them to be a part of this process after it has passed so that they can make sure that they are working with the populations that they aim to and support.
You know, prior to just before my other colleagues, prior to knowing what a doula is, or my firstborn, who's now 38 years old, he was our firstborn, and so there was a lady that was helping my wife at the time. I didn't know what it was. Yeah, it was a doula. Yeah, and so we had gone. Actually, she had counseled us to go through not only Lamaze but the Le Boyer method, right? And nice jazz music, and it was in the water. And so we gave birth to my son in like a tub, like warm water with music. And so I guess that's why he was a good swimmer. But anyway, I mean, but I didn't know what a doula was. I didn't know what it was, right? And I was just a lady helping my wife, you know. And I was wondering why she was always around. She was in our Lamaze class. And,
May I add something?
And all that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Marino, for your honesty. And as I mentioned in my testimony, and I prefaced my concerns, I have extensive experience in training community health workers and going out with them to these underserved communities in the back road to wherever, in the dirt roads with outhouses in Guam, and I'm very familiar with the communities you're talking about. So with that said, and the value of the work that these people do are certainly invaluable. I cannot say how much work they've done, culturally and linguistically appropriate services that they offer, people who speak Chuukese, who speak Tagalog, and the different Micronesian languages. I can truly, truly appreciate their work, especially as I supervise them. This doula program, most certainly I am 100% behind it. My concern is that a woman who wants to terminate her pregnancy, you walk with her during this pregnancy, the termination of her pregnancy, it might be, do you encourage it? And then how do you report it? Would that be a statistic in trying to reduce infant mortality rate? How are you going to report that? That is my concern. I would love to walk with women who are pregnant. And I see that, and I see this void in families. Families usually took care of that. Mothers took care of their daughters, aunts took care of everything like that, and they all helped each other. That's why doulas weren't really developed back then, because people took care of each other. But that's just my concern. walking with the woman and supporting her throughout this pregnancy is wonderful. In fact, I look at 4 of your requirements and I say, oh, check, check, check. I've got 3. All I have to do is do the OB training, which I've had already in nursing school somewhat, so it won't be too difficult for me. And as a mother of 6 and helping other people, I was involved with the Leche League back in the States and whatever else there was as a young mother. So I don't see any problems doing that, and I look forward to working with this program. And that's my only concern, that why is there an abortion doula? It seems inconsistent and very ironic that you would have abortion doulas if you truly want to walk with a woman and support her throughout her pregnancy. What is this aspect of your training? And I'm curious to see what exactly you teach as far as that's concerned. Thank you.
Can I respond to that? There are a lot of types of doulas. There are sibling doulas. There are life doulas, which seems very long. There are a full death doulas. There are a lot of different doulas, and there are a lot of different trainings for those types of doulas. There are not people who are opposing the bill based off of those other types of doulas, because that is not what this bill is talking about. If someone were to come and say, I am pregnant and I want to get an abortion through this program, they would not be receiving the support through this program. Just as if they wanted a sibling doula or a death doula or a life doula or whatever it may be doula, that would not be funded through this program.
Then why in the article that it was quoted by several of the women that have completed the course that were certified, that as a result of going through this training, they want to be abortion doulas. So I'm just wondering, what is the curriculum you have? I'm curious to see what exactly it is.
Okay, let's get back on track, okay? We're here for the bill.
Right.
The bill has been presented. Whatever's in the media, it's nice. We all enjoy reading it, but let's stick with the bill. Senator Luan, do you have anything else?
I'm done. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Thank you.
I thought you looked at me and said I could speak.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry, he looked at me and said that he would like to hear from me.
I'm the chair. If you wanted something, just recognize me and I'll recognize you, okay? Yes, Ms. Omar.
No, when she was talking, he said he wanted to hear from me too about something. Like Ms. White here was saying, the doulas it's a great program if there was no abortion doulas available. But my other issue is this. This money is being given to a program when even like I'm listening to Kirsten, Miss Kirsten down there, Bamba Rosario. Why can't this money be given to the deaf community? Is this opening the door for all this money to be funded then too? I mean, so we got all this money freely being given to a newly unvetted, unregulated industry, and then we have communities like Safe Haven Pregnancy Program, Harvest House, which serve not just women in maternal health, they serve ONIs. Why can't we establish a program to build community centers in each village? When I was growing up, we had a community center staffed by a midwife who also started, because I remember one of my friends, when I was young, her sister gave birth in the house, and the midwife came to the house, because she lived in the village, because she worked at the community center. She was a trained Surahana, but then she became a midwife due to the training of medical. She gave shots. She took vital stats. She did a lot of work. She did not just care for pregnant women. She cared for the village in whole. She took care of people's blood pressures, everything. Why can't we put this kind of money into something to build a community center for the entire village, not just for pregnant mothers? You know, this is what I'm saying. You're opening a door here and diverting public money into just one thing. Why can't we open it to a community center and go back to the community centers where the Surahanas and the midwives and the doulas can all be together in one building per village? Okay, and that's what I'm saying. You're diverting funding and then just the seed money. What about the rest of the island besides the children? And then we quote a lot of things. And then I was listening to the public health thing, the matching funds. Guam has to match these funds. okay? Whatever, Medicaids, whatever, everything. And researching, I found out that some states ran out of money and could not continue any of these programs and had to withdraw the doula projects because they had no money to fund them anymore. I read it. Okay, and in my research, continue research, guys, continue. And Birthright, they offer full spectrum doula training. Full spectrum doula training is abortion doula training. They're not covering it up. They're asking for money to do full spectrum training. And so, as a pro-life member, I'm just saying, it's not in the bill, but it's in the bill. We're offering full spectrum training.
All right.
Thank
you for your comments.
Yeah.
Senator Tello, do you have any questions? And we'll move along. Because we still have others that are going to testify.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning or good afternoon now to my colleagues, and especially those who are here and listening in the audience. I mean, from home. I think there's a lot of people are actually listening to this bill and want to clarify what it really means. And some of my colleagues actually asked these questions that I had concerns about too as well. I've always been pro-life, so I've never veered away from that. I've also been an advocate for women's health, especially when it comes to pregnancy, to help them through sometimes a difficult pregnancy. But I was very pleased about you coming today to testify on advocating for the deaf and the hard of hearing, and I've introduced several legislations for that community and would like to continue on. So I have a question. Let's start there. Does the doula, and this is Stevie, do you offer sign language to your trainees?
That is an available option if requested. Any language that folks have a need in, we do offer that if it is requested. So far, it has not been requested. Thankfully, Kirsten here has taken our training, and so we hope to bring on her services as needed.
Well, I know she's very taxed. She's everywhere if you look at her, but I'm hoping that you'll open it up just as her to train your individuals for the deaf and hard of hearing.
Yes, we would love that.
Because that's very close to my heart. And I can go on and on, so I'll just keep moving forward. So Stevie, is your doula, is it considered a nonprofit or a for-profit organization?
Our organization is a 501c3 nonprofit.
Nonprofit organization. Yes. Okay, because you're a nonprofit organization, do you charge any of your clients?
Well,
do you charge them for your services?
When they come to us?
Well, let's say there's someone who needs help, it's having a difficult pregnancy, and, well, first of all, if someone is having a difficult pregnancy and maybe they read about it or something and they call your agency, do you charge?
So the way that our doula services work is that they can either go through our organization, which would be at cost to our organization, so we do not charge for that. But,
okay, I don't explain it. Say that again.
Yes. Okay, so there's two ways to access doula services through our organization. One way is through funding through our organization, which are people who have the financial need, right? Uh-huh. The other way is, say one of our doulas, someone reaches out and they say, hey, I want a doula, I'm able to pay, but I want to be matched with someone who fits the needs that I have. And so then we would send them a list of our doulas and they would basically do that separate from our organization.
So you do charge?
No, we do not charge. Our doulas can if it is separate from our organization, but if they are reaching out directly to us for pro bono services, then we would provide that. Does that make sense?
So no, not really, okay. Actually. It's kind of confusing. So you're a nonprofit organization. Yes. Usually nonprofit organizations don't charge anything, even if you train. Okay, you don't maybe, not your your organization charges.
Our organization does not charge, but our doulas can if they are reached out to individually.
Individually,
yes.
But if they go through your organization, and what is the name of your organization?
Birth Workers of Color Collective.
Okay, so through your organization, they reach out to you, call the number on the website, and say, my daughter needs assistance, to get through this and whatever. Do you charge that client if you come out to assist during that pregnancy?
No. unless they are reaching out to one of our individual doula lists. So on our website, we have a list of our doulas.
Okay, but so they call you directly?
Oh, yeah. No, then we would not.
Okay, so let's say you're busy doing something, right? And you're not available that time, because you never know pregnancies, so you can't time it all the time. So then you call one of your doulas that you've trained, and you ask them to assist based on your organization. Would that doula still charge?
Well, there's different parameters to decide on that. Some people reach out because they want to pay fee for service.
No,
right?
just answer the question.
I mean, the question isn't a clear question.
No, it's very simple.
Senator,
You're busy.
Can I clarify?
If I can, Jane, let me finish. It's very simple because she's the one that runs the organization.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's why I'm asking her, Jane. So if you don't mind, I want to hear it from her. You're busy. You can't answer a call of a pregnant mom who's going through, a tough pregnancy. You can't make it because you're probably seeing someone else. If you call one of your trainees and ask them, or doulas that are trained in 3 days, right? The training is only 3 days,
It's actually a 6-month training, just to clarify. So they do a 4-day live training, which is in person, and then they have a 6-month asynchronous training after that. Yes.
And that training is through you, but not the public health or anything like that?
It's through our organization, but we have medical providers.
Who does this training? Is it recognized by Department of Public Health? Are you recognized by the public?
In different states, we are, yes.
No, I'm talking about Guam.
We have just started the conversations with public health
Oh,
department.
just now starting the conversations. Yes. Okay, do you have liability insurance?
We do.
Okay, does all your doulas have liability insurance?
That is a choice of theirs if they are practicing individually.
Okay.
Yes.
So back to the question. You're busy, you can't, go to this one mother who needs assistance, and you ask another doula if they can, because it's your organization, you train them, right?
Yes.
And like I said, does that doula charge then?
If that person is accessing services through one of our programs, no, we do not. If they are accessing doula services through that individual doula, that doula has the right to charge.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so independently.
Yes.
So doulas do charge.
Yes, it is a profession.
How much do they charge, by the way?
It depends on the state that they are in. It could be anywhere from $500 to $5,000. It depends on the experience. It depends on the area that they are in.
Is there an hourly rate?
It is a career.
Is there an hourly rate?
If some doulas do charge hourly, it just depends on the doula.
So this $500,000 that's going to go to your organization, which I think is a great idea.
It is not going to our organization, just to clarify that.
Oh,
it is not.
It's not going to your organization, but it's going to Women's Bureau.
The funding would go to the Bureau of Women's Affairs, and the Bureau of Women's Affairs is setting a budget for training of doulas. So we would train other doulas, especially doulas in the communities, like the deaf community or the Micronesian community or the Chamorro. We would train different doulas. It would also provide some funding for private doula services. For example, if a woman wanted a doula and she did not qualify for Medicaid, or she did not have individual health insurance that covered it, it would fund some of that, but mostly it would fund group doula services, because we're trying to mostly fund the indigent community. It would also fund an education and outreach program to let the community know what these services are, why they're important, and that this is going to, a healthy mother's healthy babies type thing. And with regard to the funding, think of it as when someone calls for counseling, for mental health counseling. If they want a counselor and they can't afford it, then they are afforded free counseling through the Department of Public Health and Social Services counseling funding for indigent program. But if you have insurance or you have Medicaid, then Medicaid funds that.
So the funding, right, I understand. So the funding goes to the Women's Bureau, and the Women's Bureau utilizes that funding to decide who gets trained, who will be given funding in case they can't afford a doula, but they need a doula or would like a doula. So they would go to the Women's Bureau and saying, I'm an individual who needs assistance, but I don't have the money for a doula, to help me through my pregnancy. Can Women's Bureau, fund my doula for me? So that's basically what we're looking at then, right? So it's not going directly to this nonprofit organization. It's going to you,
Yes.
the Women's Bureau, and the Women's Bureau will decide it. Well, Jane, have you put any rules and regulations on how to govern that $400,000?
We are working on a budget and on what the qualifications would be to have to, and I'm working with Director Areola with regard to this. We're working with GMH because some of the doctors at GMH want a panel of doulas so that if someone is giving birth and they need a doula or someone to translate, that they don't have to call the janitor.
Okay, so let's say that public health has other organizations under public health that assist women, prenatal care, assistance with getting to their doctor's appointment, et cetera, down the line. Department of Public Health has these programs.
They don't have anything like this.
Okay, well, according to them, yeah, well, no, nothing like this. I'm sure they don't have doulas at Department of Public Health and Services right now because doulas are not recognized right now at Department of Public Health and Services. And maybe one day they might be, but right now they're not recognized as, they're...
We're working
definitely, on it. I'm sure you are. And it's something that I think women here will benefit from. Don't get me wrong. It's just the problem is the funding. Funding something like this, we have to scrutinize it.
True.
Because we can't sit here, give away funding like this, and don't expect anybody else coming into this body asking for the same amount of money to help their organization, too, as well. There's so many different organizations. But right now, we have funding. We're funding the Department of Public Health and their programs. And that's what it brings me pause when they say that when you're looking at expanding services to additional individuals to cover new services or to increase reimbursement to existing services, we need both federal dollars and local dollars to ensure that the people have the medical care they need. And that's from public health. They're supporting it, which I think everybody here supports the organization, as long as it's not killing any babies. I mean, that's for me. I mean, we have a couple other individuals who want to make sure that doesn't happen. And I'm looking forward to the amendments that are going to be on this bill to ensure that it doesn't happen. But one question I have, Stevie, have you trained any of the doulas so far for abortions on Guam?
As abortion doulas, as full-spectrum doulas? Yes, that was a part of our training. Are all of the doulas abortion doulas? No. Many of them are not.
How many do you have?
How many of them do I have what?
That you've trained on Guam? You have 13, right?
Yes.
So how many have you trained for abortions?
Everyone is trained from that training that I want to emphasize was not funded by this bill. We have different trainings, and that particular training was funded by outside source for that.
I understand. Right.
For this particular training, for this bill, full spectrum would not cover abortion. I want to be very clear on that.
Okay, and so, right, because you've already trained them.
Yes, but this training, this bill has additional training for new doulas.
You've already trained all 13 of your doulas for abortions.
If that is something that they want to do. Because in Guam, they have the legal right to, yes.
Sure, absolutely,
yes.
They do. They have their right.
When I say trained in abortion, that is not to provide abortion services in the way that we are doing the actual abortion. It is to just respect any approach that that person decides that they want to take and that they have the support for it.
Understand.
Yes.
And I want to make sure that any of this funding does not, leave the opportunity for any money that you will make because you don't have to afford having to use your resources to train anybody to use it for something else, the resources that you have that doesn't come from this. See, $400,000, $500,000, it will give you the opportunity for any other revenue that you bring in, apart from the $400,000, any other revenue that bring in to continue any type of training for abortion.
that $400,000 is, again, not going to our
No,
organization,
it's not.
just
It's
to
not.
clarify
But
that.
but it does relieve you from any other funding that you do receive. You know, like if someone comes to you and wants to donate $10,000, that money could be used for something else to assist women, but instead you can use it to continue to train for abortion. However, the $400,000, of course, we're going to make sure this bill does not go in any direction whatsoever that would
Yes, Senator,
encourage abortions.
this bill is to help women have healthy babies.
No, I understand the money is, but see, if I had a company, and I've had companies, several companies, and if I, get an influx of money, and before I lose my train of thought, Jane, have you sought federal grants? Any kind of federal grants for the program that you want to stand up?
This is a brand new program, and what we're trying to do is put it into the medical system on Guam through Medicaid and through...
Have you tried to get any grants, is my question. Have you
No,
sought any
we
grant
have not,
funding?
We have not
Any grant
sought
funding?
any federal grant funding for
Now, my
doulas.
next question, have you asked the governor for the ARP funding, any ARP funding?
For this?
Yes.
No, I
You haven't
not.
even gone that direction. So you came directly to this body to ask for the $400,000.
It was
Many times when agencies come before us, we try, because there's so many desperate need for assistance out there in our community right now, in every aspect. Not just women.
To answer your question, I did look, and most of the funding is with the Department of Public Health or the Health and Human Services is for research and grants. They do not fund individual programs like this.
I wonder why. So you haven't
Because
been
they're
able
trying to
ask
put it
ARP
on
funding.
Medicaid.
You haven't asked for ARP funding, which I hope you do, because there's still quite a bit of money left over in that ARP funding.
We will consider that.
I hope you do. Please ask, because $200 and something million sitting there, and it has to be spent by the end of the year. I'd hate to lose that. And then I expect you would have to go as well, seeking grants for this organization, to assist in our women on island who desperately need care. I would hope you would be doing that instead of coming to this body.
Absolutely, we are trying to do that. However, federal grants take a long time, and this is something that came up to us through Senator Fisher and Senator San Augustine and the other senators wanting to help immediately.
Yeah, it does take some time, but it starts when you first ask. So I hope you do start that questioning. You said you have liability insurance. Okay. Okay. My next question is, it was mentioned, Ms. White, you had something in your testimony here that I had a question. Oh, I think this was. Okay, this came from someone. I have a question, Ms. White. Since you're a registered nurse for many years, many years, you have long history, and especially on our island. It says here on the explanation of doulas, not in your testimony, but another testimony, doulas are pre- and postnatal professional trained in emotional and informational counseling for birth. Have you seen this ever, this kind of explanation of a profession? Is it just counseling, right? I mean, this is the definition they gave. Doulas are pre- and postnatal professionals trained in emotional and informational counseling for birth.
Well, first of all, doulas are not professionals.
Okay.
They are not licensed. And throughout their testimony, they said, we are not medical professionals. So how can you say you're professionals trained in counseling? You're not. You're trained to walk with them and to be a coach, to assist them, to support them, to encourage them, to advocate for them. But you're not professionals because you're not licensed by the territory or state that you have a basic knowledge that will ensure safety for the people you care for. That's why you have to be licensed. That's why you have national boards looking over you. That's why you have to get relicensed and constantly, keep up your knowledge. But no, you're walking, just as I teach my community health workers, you're coaches, you're helping them, you're assisting them.
I see.
And as far as funding, I would love to have funding. I would love to come here and say, hey, I want $400,000 for a diabetes self-management education program for this whole island because everybody's affected by it. We have higher incidences of diabetes than the whole country of the United States. Oh my goodness, we have more dialysis centers. I would love to come here and ask you for even $100,000.
Yeah.
So that's a side story.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I understand your passion because there are so many other organizations that need this assistance. And if this bill does come through, I don't stop you from coming over here and asking for money from this body since they're willing to pass it out like the sky's raining with money at this point. So yeah, no, I encourage you to do that as well. I wish public health was here because we're talking about license. And it's not just for the women, but it's for your individual doulas too, for your protection as well, nature. So I just wish they were here and to see how far along they are in trying to get you one licensed or recognized or even provide the assistance at public health. I wish they were here to ask this question. Go ahead, Mrs. O'Malley, Ms. O'Malley.
Miss Ramona McManus, she runs the Safe Haven pregnancy program here in Guam. They've been around for years, and they have been struggling for years too because, and then the Typhoon Mawar really damaged their center. I'm going to ask if you can prepare a bill for them to seek funding to repair their building and to continue their training with, they do they do all kinds of training. They need a new ultrasound machine because they have that one ultrasound machine, which the Knights of Columbus, as well as some of the Catholic members, donated to them for their, and we just donated some pregnancy testing cups to them. They work basically on free money and free labor. They have trained counselors there too, which they train out of their own pockets. And everybody works there for free, but they really need money to rebuild their center. They've been working out of Harvest Baptist Church. I'm just saying, can we work together and get a bill put together? I think they would need maybe more than $500,000, but we'll work on that amount.
Well,
I can get those figures for you. Thank you so much for your generosity, everybody here. It's so sweet of you. I really appreciate all this money coming out.
It's definitely opened the floodgates, to some other people. And I'm not sure, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get calls from the foster parents who have not been paid yet their monthly stipends for their children in foster care. I don't know how many times they've come to this body to saying they have not been paid or even increased, including the inflation that's happening on Guam. And these are parents who are taking care of the most vulnerable children on our island, these foster children. And these parents who utilize their own resources and their love and care for these people can't even get paid, on time to help them. And inflation has gotten so high, it's so hard to afford shoes and clothes, and let alone food. How many times have you gone to the grocery store and got this little bag that you walked out of the grocery store and it cost you $100, and you're like, oh my God, everything in this bag cost me $100? So there are so many needs. I just have one more question, Mr. Chair. I know I've taken my time, and I thank you for the opportunity to really find out what's going on and understand this, doula. The author of the legislation has had an opportunity to really, truly understand this, and this is our opportunity to get to know what this organization, who this organization is, and what they do for our community. And this is the opportunity to do that. So my last question is, as a doula, well, we know it's not professional, but I'm just saying doula, are they, do they give out like teas or herbs or anything like that when assisting a pregnancy? Are you allowed to do that while these doulas are assisting them?
I do want to clarify that doulas are professionals in the same way that an artist is a professional, that a peer counselor is a professional, that someone who works in whatever career they decide to is considered a professional. We do not claim, again, as everyone has reiterated here, to be medical professionals who need licensure or need to be certified through that, because we do not do anything medical.
And you're not medical, you're
We
not
are not medical
counselors,
providers.
professional counselors.
I do not claim to be a professional counselor.
Because
I'm not
that- yeah,
trained.
that's
I don't
why-
know who that.
yeah.
I don't know who made that comment or what the definition is or where they received that. I believe they said that they were. Repeat the language, please.
Yeah, they said that they're pre and postnatal professionals trained in emotional informational counseling.
Informational counseling.
Counseling,
Yes,
yeah.
informational
So
counseling.
but you're not professional counselors, right? Because they use the word counselor.
I would say informational counseling is an accurate depiction.
Okay, but anyways, can you just answer the questions? Do you give out any kind of teas or herbs or anything like that?
I can't speak to each individual doula who has ever been trained in the history of time, so I don't know.
Do you train them on herbs and teas to help soothe the woman through her pregnancy?
We have had
even oils on the back, you know, that's where it always hurts when we're
We had a
giving birth.
Surahana who came, Surahana Francis, and she did talk about different traditional medicines and herbs.
So it's up to the doula whether they want to use those herbs or teas or anything
It's
like that?
actually up to the client. So the doula would
Up to
just
the client.
support in whatever the client wants to do while also giving them education and information about any
Okay.
contraindications, doing that research for them. If they ask, hey, I heard that chamomile tea is really great for morning sickness. What do you think about this? Well, I can do some research for you that talks about contraindications for pregnancy.
Okay, 'cause
so it's not
that's-
up to the doula, it is up to the client or the patient.
Yeah, that's where I think the doulas need to be very careful, you know, as you're performing your duties, you know, that you have to be very careful on that, what you provide them. And liability is huge, especially when it comes to medical. And you got to be, you know, just be cautious of that. And I think that's it, Mr. Chair. I really
Thank you.
appreciate the opportunity to ask these questions, and thank you so much for everyone answering my questions.
All right, thank you. Senator Roy, do you have any questions or comments you'd like to make for the panel?
No, definitely no questions. I fully support this legislation. I support my colleague and my good friend from Talafofo, Senator Fisher. I thank you for this legislation and your opportunity to co-sponsor it, and I look forward to its passage. I think it has enough sponsors. Thank you again.
Thank you. Senator Vice Speaker Tina Rose Minja-Barnes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I ditto the comments of the retiring Speaker, Senator Caneta. I, too, am a sponsor, one of the main sponsors of this legislation, and I want to thank the panel here this morning for bringing this up and literally coming together to share and advocate for a new program that has already been approved in more than 12 states in the country. More jurisdictions in the United States are looking into the doula program and seeing how it could move and be facilitated moreover. Mr. Chair, it's really important when you asked me to read the testimonies of those who wanted their testimonies read. I'm going to read Ms. Flora Ann Asanoma, because she too had a personal experience of dealing with a local doula here, and I want to make sure that it gets appended to the record. So, Hafaday, everyone. I am Flora Ann Asanoma, and today I'm going to share my doula service testimonial. Like a lot of you, I had no idea what a doula was. I was ecstatic to learn that I was expecting, and on the other hand, I was afraid of giving birth. I was terrified because of the movies and stories I had heard. How will I get through this? I kept asking myself, what should I learn? And what do I do? All these thoughts ran through my mind until I met Tia. According to the Google, a doula is a woman who is employed to provide guidance and support to pregnant women during labor. All of that and more was provided by Tia and her services. She assisted me not just during labor, but also in the pre- and postpartum phases. Tia was present at my appointments when my partner was unable to be with me. Having a doula during my checkups allowed me to feel more at ease and ensured that I understood everything the doctor said. I would listening during my appointments, but not fully comprehending. Tia was able to retell the doctor's words in a way that made sense to me. Before I gave birth, Tia and I met to finish off my birth intention. As a soon-to-be mom, there were some things I knew I wanted during my labor and some things I didn't know about. In figuring out what I wanted and how to stand up for myself, Tia was able to support and mentor me through the process. She provided all the support I needed when I was in labor. She made sure that my birth intention was followed by the physicians and nurses. During my 3-day labor, I had an emotional support, humor, and freedom to walk around my hospital room. What people don't realize that doula support doesn't only benefit the mother, but also the father. Tia helped my partner support me emotionally, and she was able to give him support as well. She also helped me navigate a difficult and drawn-out labor. Without doula services, I don't think my birth would have been as easy and quick. Because of her guidance and listening to my body, I was able to have a magical birth experience. After almost 3 months of postpartum, I feel great mentally, physically, and emotionally. Thanks to the doula services, having a doula truly gave me the confidence to advocate for myself during my labor and for my baby. I highly recommend having a doula to all the mamas, experienced or soon to be experienced. If someone were to ask me if I would hire a doula again, I would reply, absolutely, without hesitation. And thank you for reading. Flora Ann Sonoma. Mr. Chair, just reading the testimony from this constituent who felt it imperative to turn in this letter of support for Bill 318. I think it's important to understand that if you have something new and you have an idea, you build it and they will come. Some things may not have been good back then, but are more better today. Some things may have been great back then, but not so good today. In our experiences, Mr. Chair, as spoke by some of the panel members, there were suggestions of surahanas and traditional healers, and I think those are all important. Today we are in modern day time, and anything we can do to promote and advocate for a program that will help the birth of a child is much needed. And as we look at the mortality rates here on Guam as compared to the United States, again, based on what was mentioned by the panelists and this bill, even to know that this is for support for a mother and the baby and even the father and the family, that these are advocates, emotional support healers with heart to give and support the mother and the family. There is a definition federally based on the 12 states that already have it and more states that are coming into a new program of doulas. There is a state plan that a lot of the doulas have already worked with. As noted earlier by the Department of Public Health and Social Services, Mrs. Teresa Arreola, she mentioned that she is working with CMS, which is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare, to include that Guam gets included in the Medicaid process so that those who cannot afford this kind of service will be able to avail the services through that if they qualify. So, Mr. Chair, this legislation in part includes a lot of that. Yes, there may be a lot of folks that don't know what doulas are out there, but this is a start. And we look at all the optimism and the positivity that this could bring to mothers, to mamas, but also to papas who need to better understand, because in my take, Mr. Chair, if I had to go through the experience I went through with my son, having 12 and a half hours coming out, like I said earlier, like a cone head, and my husband didn't understand him having a cone head, because of the forceps being utilized, because my pregnancy was hard, I too myself would have literally freaked out. But because of what the Surahana told me, I was able to understand that sometimes, you know, when the baby comes out and coming out of a small canal, that there are things that will come back into perspective and literally form itself. So knowing that, Mr. Chair, I think it's important that we look at all the legislation before us and see what we can do to positively move it over. So I'm hoping I understand there's several more that need to speak for or against, and I'm willing to hear them out before I ask my final question on the second round after everybody speaks. Si Juice Masi, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice. Yeah, I have comments too on the bill, but I'm a co-sponsor and I support the bill. But I'm going to move along. I'm going to excuse the panel now. But, you know, don't disappear because there may be some questions brought up. But I excuse you from the panel, and I'm going to call Mr. Duenas, Alfred, Ms. Viola Akfaji, Monica De Oro. Monica De Oro. Okay, you're here. Okay, great. Mary Espinosa. Aria. Well, fine, but I'm calling her name. Okay, we got Vera De Oro. I think I mentioned that.
No, you
Oh, no. I got Vera De Oro also. Let's see. She's here also. And then Bistrom Mendiola. Come on up. Before everybody speaks, I'm just going to make a very short comment on the bill. I'm a co-sponsor. That's number one. Number two, I'm a father of 3. I'm also a father of 11 grandchildren and 1 great-grand. And at no point did a doula exist. I wish they did. Okay? If you look at the bill, follow it, let's work it. I understand that folks that don't support abortion, fine. It's not there. But let's move along and let's just focus on the bill. No more hidden excuses, okay? And we'll begin with Mr. Duenas, and then we'll repeat after Mr. Duenas, followed by Ms. Afaji. And then Monica, you be next. Okay, and then the mother. Hey, mother and daughter, great job. And then Bistrom Mendiola. Okay, so just, Mr. Duenas, commence firing, please. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Felix Berto Alfred Duenas, and I am an employee with Senator Joanne Brown, ALC2 employee. I am also with Catholic Pro-Life, and I am here to testify in favor of this bill. And the reason why I am in favor of it is that the success of this bill in lowering the mortality rate of the infant would put me out of commission. My function at Catholic Pro-Life is to bury the unclaimed fetus and the unclaimed infants. And I go out and I solicit from mortuaries to contribute the casket, various religious organizations for rosaries and prayers, and a priest to offer mass for a proper burial of the fetus and the unclaimed fetus and the unclaimed unborn. So kudos to them if they can drastically reduce the mortality rate, because then the need for the services would cease. And my testimony on the bill is pretty short to coincide with the briefness and shortness of the bill itself. I propose to eliminate certain modifiers that serve as a seal of approval for diversity, equality, and inclusion, DEI. Modifiers such as culturally relevant, evidence-based, culturally appropriate, cultural tradition, cultural birthrights, culturally congruent, culturally competency, gender equality, green growth initiative do not enhance the need or use of a doula. Doulas provide an important service to expectant mothers having a traditional birthing delivery or having to have a cesarean birth or an abortion. Birth Workers of Color Collective has been in existence since 2017. Has there been any verifiable impact on the annual fetal death rate in the areas where they offer their services? BWOCC has trained approximately 17 doulas in Guam. Have they started providing services to expectant mothers? If yes, do they have any details? If no, when will they start? Health insurance providers offer prenatal care, delivery and postnatal care, breastfeeding support, supplies and counseling in addition to other services to mother and infant. Medicaid provides prenatal care and maternity care. At the present time, neither the health insurance providers nor Medicaid cover doula services here. How much will an expectant mother be charged for a service of a doula? On line 12, page 4, item 1, I reduce Guam's maternal and infancy mortality rate by at least 1/3. The bill does not provide the maternity mortality rate, but the infant mortality rate is identified as fetal death rate at 13.32 per 1,000 births, while the U.S. fetal rate never reached above 6.11 per 1,000 births since 2011. A 1/3 reduction would still put Guam's fetal mortality rate above average. Is this an acceptable rate of return for our investment of $400,000? I also suggest to include in Section 3 the CMS approval of the California Medicaid SBA 22-0002, adding doula services as a preventive service benefit. And I've provided, attached to my testimony, the letter from CMS to California Department of Healthcare approving their request to modify the Medicaid state plan. And that's the end of my testimony.
Thank you, sir. Now, Ms. Agustin. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you, thank you, thank you, Senator San Agustin. Okay, thank you for having this hearing. Bill 318-37, an act to appropriate $400,000 from the general fund to Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs relative to funding the GUÅHAN Doula project. According to this body's findings, then stated, Guam has some of the highest mortality and infant mortality rates in the U.S. and its 5 territories. Of course, it is the right direction to address this critical situation. Life counts, mothers and babies. When the GUÅHAN Doula project sprung up to my awareness last Monday, July 8, with a hearing on July 9th, I made a note to attend the hearing, which was postponed until today, so here we are. Its postponement allowed me to do some research on the GUÅHAN Doula project and its link to the Birth Worker of Color Collective. I will share some findings in the BWOCC, which I found a bit interesting. Found on their 2023 impact report, table of contents, letter from the founder, team on page 4, abortion doula training on page 8, and Guam doula training on page 9 of this 2023 impact report. Okay, so page 4 is the staff. We have Stevie Marino, we met her, executive director and co-founder, and then right below her comes Christine Lares or Laris, abortion doula program coordinator, right there on the top. And then page 8, abortion doula training. And I'm going to read a little bit from page 8. Abortion doulas are a life-saving cornerstone in the framework of reproductive justice. Since 2017, Birth Workers of Color Collective has led 4 abortion doula trainings, and all of the 350-plus doulas are trained in abortion support. Page 9, Guam training. Sorry. Our doula training, this is from them, our doula trainings was the first doula training ever on Guam. From 1 doula on Guam, we now have 17 newly trained doulas, with majority being Chamorro, meaning we have 17 trained abortion doulas in the collective 350-plus doulas, at least from page 8. Is it prudent to give $400,000 from the general fund to satisfy Guam Bureau of Women's Affairs to train more local and regional doulas in the abortion support. I thought the bill was, intended the bill was to preserve mothers and babies' lives. I've heard now wonderful things about doula, and women who are pregnant, who are afraid to be mothers, who may be alone, maybe they're single mothers, they do need help, they do need support. But I'm going to go back to this bill on page 2, first paragraph. It offered statistics on fetal deaths here in Guam. It is wonderful that fetal deaths were counted as demised human beings, a population of demised human beings. That's the key phrase, fetal death. But I am bothered, though, that 2 hearings ago, I provided the body here, a few of you were here, I provided you with the statistics from public health of medically aborted babies, and their numbers were not counted on this bill that said the more pregnant women get seek help, it'll lessen fetal death. But anyway, we have, of course, in 2022, we have 30 medically aborted fetuses in Guam, and in 2023, we have 33 medically aborted fetuses in 2023. Maybe they did not count on the statistics provided in the bill because they were products of mothers exercising their reproductive right or justice. This is a new term I came upon when researching BWOCC. Since the reporting of aborted fetuses in 2022 and 23 for Guam, I think the infant mortality rate is up if we consider them fetuses as babies. So that's a stark reality. I pray for the mothers and the families of lost babies through medically aborted children. Guam babies that are down the toilet. GUÅHAN Doula project seems to lend to, if that is the trend, and some have clarified that it's not the trend, they're not going to talk about they're going to leave that out on abortion. Well, I'm going to tell you right now that when we had a hearing for the telemedicine, telehealth, definitely we had 3 senators that vowed not to have telemedicine to be, abortion to be used via telemedicine. That didn't happen, but anyway. So the GUÅHAN Doula project lends to the continued practice of medically aborted babies, and I just hope that they're true to their word, that this doula training is for the preservation of mothers' lives and babies to be born rather than to be flushed down the toilet, as what you do when you abort the medically aborted babies here. You flush them down the toilet. So kudos to life, and thank you for your time to listen to this testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Akfaji. Ms. Dioro.
Hafaday, Senator, so grateful to be here in support of Bill 318-37. Mateo Francisco, 2002, Carlo Miguel, 2007, Sai, 2010, Lumuhu, 2023. These are just some of the nennies that I have familial ties to that were born at the hospital and never made it home to their families. This is the heartbreaking and absolutely horrifying reality we have on GUÅHAN. I'm so grateful to Stevie Moreno, Auntie Jane Flores, and Senator Fisher for championing this issue. Improving birth experiences for mothers and babies has long-term health and wellness correlations. Those women who have had traumatic births are much more likely to have complications and post-pregnancy mood disorders. The biggest reason why this bill is so necessary to pass for me is that the medical providers here are incredibly limited and overtaxed. When I found out I was pregnant in in April 2021, I called all the clinics, and the earliest appointment I could get was not for another 6 weeks later. This is the period when most miscarriages happen. The shortages of OBGYNs on this island is so worrisome, and I want to echo the call to increase more support in that area and more resources in that area to recruitment and retainment of those professionals. Having more intimate access to someone who can answer questions, manage concerns, offer resources, and advocate for pregnant people will definitely quell anxieties and trepidations. My sisters, aunties, friends, like all women, have had their fair share of experiences regarding their reproductive journey and parenting. Having community members that are trained using trauma-informed and culturally reflective curriculum like the one offered by birth workers of color will only enhance our existing social networks of care. While the anecdotes and superstitions are well-meaning, they may also be ungrounded in reality. I remember being pregnant for the first time 16 years ago and was so overwhelmed by the different rules. You can't wear a necklace, you can't stand under the doorway, you can't sleep with your feet to the door, your partner can't fish or hunt, don't eat anything pica. If you have heartburn, your baby will have lots of hair. This is just a few things to name. And then when my baby came, there's even more things to be wary of. Don't be out at night. Don't sleep with the baby. The sereno, a die this, a die that. Don't do this, do that. Having a trained doula can help encourage parents to trust in their own abilities and to build their skills and awareness around parenting and bonding with their new baby. The doula training I was fortunate to be a part of as the first cohort of GUÅHAN doulas really helped us to understand the entire journey of reproduction, from fertility well into the first year of the baby's life. Doulas can choose how their gifts can best be of service to their clients. And I do want to say that none of the doulas who went to the training went to make money. We all went for a genuine, heartfelt concern to serve our community, to serve in the wellness and in the well-being of women and of children. None of it was to line our pockets. This is definitely, nursing professionals, other medical professionals will say this is not the career to get rich by. There are even doulas that help with the caring of siblings and nourishing mamas and the whole family. There are so many ways parents and babies can use that extra source of support. Another group of women that need help from the help that doulas can offer are those who unfortunately miscarry or have issues with fertility and conception. I know way too many people who have lost a birth that they were really excited for. There's not enough resources to support pregnancy loss. Time off from work and medical assistance is not always guaranteed in these cases. The Guam Doula program can grow into taking these supportive roles through grief and loss. Having given birth naturally with no medication 3 times now to healthy boys, all on the full moon, I definitely believe that the mindset and beliefs around birth need to be nurtured and curtailed personally too. My first son was born in 2008, and while I had fear, I was not fearful. I questioned the way Hollywood portrayals of birth, and I reasoned that with 8 billion people on Earth, birth does not have to be as crazy, traumatic as the movies make it out to be. I trusted that my body was made to birth. My mom had 5 kids, her mom had 5 kids, and my great-grandmother had 14 kids. And my paternal side also has the same propensity for reproducing. Having that inner confidence and making sure I had my connection to my ancestors was a big difference in all my births. My first son was born within 30 minutes of my arrival at GMH. And if I had a doula, they would have been very helpful in that while I was experiencing delivery, I was being forced to sign papers, I was being strapped to the bed and monitors, and doing things that I did not want and didn't feel supported. In 2021, I was fortunate to have a birth coach, Miss Edna Martin, and she was an incredible asset to me and my partner. In the last 2 months of my pregnancy, she offered hypnobirthing coaching and virtual trainings, and I listened to guided meditations every day and had a workbook to write and to reflect on my journey. We also put up birth affirmations all over my house. With my coaching, I learned different ways to manage surges or contractions, as well as different birthing positions. I had a birth plan and felt so prepared and not stressed the way that many parents do. The birth of my son Kala was so calm and so peaceful, there was no yelling, and I again gave birth within 30 minutes of getting to the hospital in Saipan. I now have a 3-month-old who has been here in the gallery with us, and having the support of all the doulas in the first cohort of the GUÅHAN doula training, it was such a blessing. Just knowing that I could tap into this deep, deep well of care and wisdom was so reassuring. Recently, in my last trimester, I was dealing with pregnancy insomnia, which led to anxiety, and just one phone call with Tia Ugin, one of our Guam doulas who testified today, really helped me to shift my negative thinking and bring me back to myself. She gave me great tools to reconnect with myself and empowered me to finish my pregnancy strong. And while I was in labor, I was able to do it with ease and birth in the healthy way that I envisioned and not be overcome by those negative thoughts. As I launched my own journey as a doula, I feel very competent and confident in helping those with gestational diabetes and hypertension on different ways to manage their blood sugar and their heart via omelet chamorro, diet, and exercise, and not have expensive medicines that have uncomfortable side effects. I myself have been able to manage this plight twice now and really enjoyed the process of seeing how my diet and how my exercise and my choices reflected in my blood sugar levels and in other ways, and my energy levels. After this bill passes, I look forward into getting more specified training on nutrition and pregnancy. I'd love to work with WIC and nutritionists on the island to help even coach mothers while they grocery shop. Doulas are an asset in the care team. I love how we can be the ones to coordinate and collaborate with medical professionals, family members, and other local programs to ensure the well-being of mamas and babies. As a doula too, connecting future clients to our beautiful lands and plants, medicines that have aided my family and all of our families for millennia is something I feel strongly that I can do. I've been trained by Surahanas for many years now. I've been getting things like the laboratorio or the postpartum steams together for friends and relatives since I first gave birth 16 years ago. My grandmother did that for all of her births and for the births of all her families. I've also been personally reclaiming placenta ceremonies and planting my son's placentas on our ancestral lands in Saipan. I love knowing that I can integrate cultural practices into the services that I can provide as a doula. While I end my testimony of support for this bill, I just wanted to share my experience of the doula training with the birth workers of color. The first week of training was a deep dive that was complemented by cultural workshops and grounding sessions. And although we were said that we were abortion trained, it was not a training fully on abortion. That portion of the training was just really an overview of the local laws and the access and the barriers to access of abortion on the island. It was never to treat or show how to get an abortion. It was really just a grounding on what the status of abortion is on the island, which is pretty much non-existent. And after that concluded, we gained access to an amazing Google Classroom that has all kinds of modules to deepen our understanding of all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, and articles that really aid in understanding the social underpinnings of why Pacific Islanders in particular have such high infant and maternal mortality rates. Along with this curriculum, we were invited to be a part of a mentor and support program and join other cohort members who've been trained by the birth workers of color from all over the United States. And these are all women who are just starting their journeys as birth workers too. And so this community, bringing this group of people together really is helping us to build our confidence, share concerns, and get advice from mentors who've been doing this work for a long time. This source of support and that network that birth workers of color has to offer will undoubtedly lift so many people on this island. So please, Senators, let us all work together to pass the Guam Doula Bill and improve the well-being of all on this island. Thank you.
Thank you. Now for your mother.
Hafa. My name is Vera Santos Dioro, and yes, I am her mother, and I'm the nana of the baby who was in here earlier. I am here in support of Bill 318-37, and I'm also proud to be of the first cohort of trained doulas with Stevie Moreno. I come from a long line of Chamorro women who honor and celebrate the role of womanhood, especially during the time of pregnancy and delivery. It wasn't until I gave birth that I felt I had the respect of my nana, my great-grandmothers and all the women who already gave birth. I was inducted into this royal role of motherhood. I am also proud that I am a mother of 5 daughters, and 3 of us who are now trained. My daughter in North Carolina was the first doula to be trained and talked to us of her training to become a doula. I'm officially retired as a professor at GCC, and I also hold a master's in counseling, and I hope to use my counseling to enhance my work as a doula serving the women of Guam. And also, Tina, I agree with you that the fathers also greatly benefit from this training. Chris, I think, or it was Senator Lujan who stated that he didn't know he was receiving doula service during his time 30 plus years ago. I myself didn't know I was receiving doula services in terms of someone, family stepping in to take care of my toddlers so that I and my husband can go welcome a new baby into our families. That is the service of a doula, taking care of siblings so that the mother and father can focus their attention on a healthy delivery. When I relocated to the States with my husband, I was only in the States 9 months and ready to give birth when a Chamorro family did that for me. They took care of my family. The other service I also got when we were welcome home for 5 days straight or maybe a week, different mothers around our military came and brought dinners for my family. I didn't have to worry about who was going to feed my family or whatever services I needed because they were there to provide that help during this really transformative time in my family. That is a service of a doula. I myself didn't know I was providing doula services when I helped my Indian friend who never held a baby in her whole life. And she was pregnant and expecting a child. I didn't know I was doing doula service when I was sharing my positive experience to help her be ready for her own transformation as a human, bringing in another human. When I returned to Guam and had 2 children, my mother-in-law came every morning. She saw her job as coming in to cook for my family, to clean for my family so that I could rest and I could heal. That is a service of a doula. I take that on to the present because that was 27 years ago, almost 30 years ago, and times may have changed, and maybe we aren't finding the support of family and friends as I did when it was my turn. And today, after the training, I took the service to do what we traditionally and inherently do as mothers. When one of my nieces gave birth, and I contacted her and said I could take care of your kids. She didn't need that, but I was there. When she and her baby were brought back to GMH for follow-up and for care, and for an extended stay in GMH in prenatal care, I coordinated with the other women in my family to help her by providing meals on a daily basis for a little while. I really see that the doula, which means servant, the doula is there to support and inspire women. And I see my role now as a retired mama to go on full force to be the role of Nana. I went to Saipan to take care of her child, of Maneka's baby, and loved every minute of it. I remember stating before I retired that when I retire, I just want to go and hold babies, you know, help mothers and just carry newborns so that, you know, because that will feed my heart as well as, I think, help others. I'm here and I'm giving my, I'm not doing this to make money, but I'm really doing it at a deeper level to help inspire women to rise to the role, to the greatest role we play in humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bistra?
Hafide. My name is Bistra Mendiola. I am a registered voter from the district of Chalampago. I'm here today because I was on my way to work and I caught a whiff of the whole hearing and certain things caught my attention. As lawmakers, you know that language and legislative intent is absolutely critical to the passage of any bill. So I did hear the preamble of the bill. Honorable Tinamune Barros was reading it at the time when I was in the car, and a few sentences caught my attention. So I decided to come down here and get an actual physical copy of the bill to review, because the bill is commendable. When I was pregnant twice with my 2 children, I wish I had the support. I only wish, particularly during the postpartum period, because the prenatal care was already provided by the OBGYNs at the time. So reading the language of the bill, I'm here to basically speak on the language. I'm not here to be pro-life, et cetera, although personally I am pro-life. Person. However, I also understand that when we create laws, they have to include as much as of the constituents out there that we can include, so that it is a balanced and well-intended bill that provides services to as many as people as possible. Having said that, I am left with more questions, so today I wish I could say I am in support of the bill. I would love to, but because I have so many questions, and hopefully those questions will be answered maybe later on, I would like to voice them out, because without debate and without discussion, we can't come to a good decision. My first question is, what type of prenatal care is intended to be provided? Because in the legislative intent portion, I'm reading that the statistics, according to the DPHSS Summit, shows the fetal deaths decline markedly with increased prenatal care. Now, I would love to hear what is the type of prenatal care intended when we are having doulas for the prenatal portion of the services, because there, you know, as I'm seeing here, there's a full spectrum intended as service, but for that particular place, what is the prenatal care, what does it entail, and what is included, who is to, I guess, oversee the actual training, because if we're talking about prenatal care, statistic that is given, I feel that this statistic was given for prenatal care provided by licensed medical professionals such as OBGYNs and midwives. So this, I would like to have that specific question answered right here. Also, I do feel that the language of the bill is somewhat restrictive to a particular ethnicity. It's a beautiful intention, you know, to support the underprivileged communities, but let's not forget that underprivileged mothers come in all skin colors, forms, and shapes. And if we want to include the entire community, let's do so and be a little bit more inclusive of the other ethnicities, because I do feel that there are Asian moms out there, Koreans, Japanese moms, service workers who are not able to avail of those beautiful services we can provide them with. I also am aware that we have a Russian community that lives here, and they are actually one of the most underprivileged citizens, or residents, especially during the pandemic. So if we live in this world where we want to be shouting out of every rooftop, we need to be diverse and inclusive. Let's do so in practice. That was my second concern. Also, as a mother and a conservative, it's no surprise, I have a problem with the language used when we're describing mothers, pregnant mothers. The language here is very much, how to say it, biased towards a particular segment organization that is very much strong on the opinion that any person could get pregnant, which biologically is incorrect. And I refuse to stand here and accept that we are taking away the one superpower that the woman is basically ordained with by God, and that is to carry a beautiful baby for 9 months, suffer 9 months with all kinds of complications, and push out a 10-centimeter baby, right? No, that was my third concern. I'm listing it.
Hold on, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're trying to follow what you're trying to ask, okay? And you keep on looking at the sheet. I just want to make sure that when you're asking a question, because we're going to answer it, but we're not going to answer it straight up with you.
Sure.
Everybody's going to be done, then the question will be posed. But I wanted to make sure that when you start saying, yeah, I got a question, what page are you at? Okay. So that we're trying to follow you, so that you're not like shooting in the sky and we're like, it's not there.
Understood.
Okay, so just
understood.
So just follow along with what you're saying, and then we'll keep track of where you're at.
Understood, sir.
Okay,
understood.
Go for it. You're
so
number 3.
I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say on page 2 the legislative intent regarding the prenatal care, which is stipulated there. I'm questioning what does the prenatal care will include, what type of prenatal care, because the statistics, as you can see, are presented in a way that it does seem that they're saying prenatal care that may have been provided by licensed medical professions. So my question is, what type of prenatal care? So that's the question. Now, on the same page, we have on line 14, women and persons, and I am objecting to the language on line 14. Okay. Now, the overall language, to be more specific, the overall language seems that is excluding other ethnicities. So I would like to, overall language, there is no specific page, sir, for that one?
Okay,
the overall language.
Just understand, as you ask questions about where it came from, the prenatal, it's in the bill. It came from public health. So as you're asking certain things, just make sure you're understanding what
I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best.
We'll work it.
Yeah.
We'll work it.
Noted,
we'll figure it out.
noted. I'm trying. I will work with you, I promise.
Thank you.
So then there is, okay, on page 5, sir, on page 5, line 1, I'm sorry, page 4, continue to page 5. A doula training completion certificates from credible doula training organizations like Birth Workers of Color Collective that have existed for at least 5 years. So this, my question there is Birth Workers of Color Collective the only organization? Okay, that's a question that's answered. Thank you. And then on page 5, B, cultural competency course relevant to working with Chamorro Pacific Islander communities. My question is, which organization will be in charge of that cultural training? So to close, thank you very much for hearing me out, and I hope we can work it out.
Thank you. Ms. Espinosa.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide testimony, but I would like to preface it by admiring that I share some memories with other women because 3 of my 5 children were born in Saipan, and I was very happy and I took it for granted. You were not asked if you wanted to breastfeed your child. You were expected, and you stayed there for 3 days, so the child got the first 3 days at the minimum of breastfed milk. So in that context, I really support any organization that promotes the early health of the baby. Overall, when I first read the bill, I supported it. I could see the intent that it appeared that the intent was to use the funds to train women so that they can help the pregnant women on Guam. It was just 2 particular words that kind of forced me to look at the website. And then that's when the questions started to arrive, that the full spectrum included the abortion possibility. And it is legal in Guam. So anyway, let me proceed to read the letter. In the first paragraph is just a rewording of the reason why I oppose the bill. Because of the language in the middle of the first paragraph, I oppose this bill due to the language that it provides leeway for doulas to assist in abortions as stated in various newspaper articles and on the official Birth Workers of Color Collective website. That's where we get it, is because they officially, oh dear. I oppose this bill due to the language that provides leeway for doulas to assist in abortions as stated in various newspaper articles and on the official Birth Workers of Colors Collective website. That's why I primarily oppose this bill. I must oppose this bill as it will provide doulas for abortions. And what is abortion? The killing of human life. What I do support is legislation that will improve pregnancy and postpartum services to support the needs of the mothers and their babies, and it can be done if changes can be made to this bill. And if I may interject, one of my youngest daughter lives in Hawaii, and she's here physically to visit, and I told her about this bill, and she says, I support the bill. They have doulas in Hawaii. And the reason she gave me was that I wasn't there to help her through her pregnancy, even though, especially in those days, we didn't have free cell to phone calls to Hawaii. And so it opened up my mind even more that it is necessary. I mean, she had a mother-in-law, but she had sister-in-laws who were pregnant about the same time she was, so her personal resource was not there, and she really would have appreciated the fact that there was a doula by her side. But then, of course, I explained to her why I didn't completely support the bill. And so under number 1, first, the reason why that I can't support this bill if we can make some changes. First of all, we want to be culturally relevant. Why do we use the word not culturally relevant? Why not substitute the project name in section 2, the establishment of the GUÅHAN Patera project? Or midwife, if you prefer, but Patera is the Chamorro word. Let's take it home and use the language of the project. It should fall under the umbrella of either the GCC or UOG training courses, which would include cultural and medical requirements. That will satisfy all of those of us in the pro-life group and associates to support this bill. Under section 3, training requirements, the first item should say that all pateras should be vetted by GCC, UOG. As of now, the way it's stated, it's like, we're not sure how they really are. There's There's wording that says, you know, it should be vetted by that organization that trains them and this and this and that. But if we want to get the women to have medical background, those are the established organizations, educational organizations that can vet the students. The funding, I'm sorry, let me continue. The funding, therefore, should be diverted to the Guam Community College and or to UOG. And my basis for this is, I listened to two women from the past describing the training provided by the Navy of becoming midwife patera. They were proud of their training. Why do we want anything less for our future pateras? And attached are the wide range of courses culturally and medically relevant. I cannot imagine that the government of Guam being legally bound to fund a doula project. I am aware that she said that it's a one-time budget that she was requesting. But anyway, I can't, it's just going to happen. They're going to keep asking for more money and more money. Number 3, in Section 4, appropriation. By my logic, and I hope that you will agree with me, therefore, the funding should go directly to GCC or UOG or both. The funds should provide grant to all students who qualify. There's a lot of money in there. You invest in those two institutions and you use the money to provide grants so that the women can afford to take these classes. And if you look at the listing of classes in the back, I didn't highlight anything because I don't have a printer at home and stuff, but they're relevant. There are cultural classes at GCC and UOG. There are medical classes that can branch out. That's the way I see it, is you take GCC and have a particular branch under their nursing curriculum that will specialize in the training of Gula people, individuals, because men also are interested in these kinds of classes. Why should our government funds bring people from off-island? To the extent possible, we must invest in our own people. We have the resources here. Let's use them. Yes, I expect that you might want to use some of that money to bring a couple of professionals to add to the current staffing of GCC or UOG. Yes, I'm sure you'll have to because they are limited in teachers over there. And then I move on to technical. I read line per line. I'm that kind of a person. So I continue. Aside from the above, I do have the following corrections or suggestions. On page 2, line 9, there must be an error. If you look at it, the percentage of women who have...
Ms. Espinosa,
yes.
let me just explain to you, as you're looking at, I noticed you know, line 2, or line 9, page 2, but just understand that page 1, 2, 3, 4, up to line 19, it starts out with, let's say, just findings and intent.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the author and his research found. This is not up to where I don't believe this is right. This is what they found. Now, you can give comment to it, but it's not for me as a committee chair to say, hey, your intention is wrong. No.
Mm-hmm.
You can give comment, and we'll take your comment from there.
Yeah. These are my suggestions to improve the bill.
But I just want to make sure you understand. This is intent. Is the author's findings. It's not, I mean, it's not the whole body. So if he had talked to you and you gave your opinion, that would be his findings. So and we live with that. And then we'll take your comments to it, but I just want to make sure you understand.
Okay.
So for corrections, that's up to the author to determine if he wants to make that correction or not.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you.
But assuming that if a bill passes and the governor signs it, becomes law, and then should there be a legal problem in the future if somebody says blah, 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 is the wording of the law that is going to make a person win or lose a case, right? So anyway, I'll just start again, page 2, line 9. There must be an error. The percentage of women who have no prenatal care is stated to be 27 and 0.65%, whereas the women with 1 to 4 prenatal care is 43. So it went up. And I think maybe, and if you read the other two after the fact, it goes down. So I think somebody made an error, and the percentages probably need to be flipped, where those that don't get any prenatal care should be 43 and 0.66, and then the second, with those that get 1 to 4 prenatal care, is 27 and 6. I'm just pointing out a typographical error that makes or breaks a bill. Okay, line 16. Of page 2, once the training of our future pateras, the organization could or should apply as a nonprofit, right? Line 14, delete the words "and persons." Only women can get pregnant. Line 21 to the first sentence on page, on the next page of 3, I think I made a mistake. It's not page 22. And the first sentence on the next page, which is page 3, should be modified to reflect the inclusion of established educational facilities on Guam, which would provide medical training. Page 3, line 2 to 16, there is no monitor of abortions. There must be stated that these pateras must understand the laws related to reporting all miscarriages and legal abortions. Because as far as I heard from, I was late, but there was no mention of any laws being covered in the training. And so that's why I have that line. They must understand all the laws related to the reporting of all miscarriages and legal abortions, because abortions, as we know it, is still legal on Guam. And on the back of the page, page 4, line 5, I'm sorry, yeah, line 5, define congruent. You know, I'm a math person. I think of triangles, congruent triangles. So what does congruent mean to the average person? And then I forgot if we could also add another word, relevant, a definition of what a relevant organization. On line 3 of that page 4, I had the word. I had to include that. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. Page 4. Line 3 says birth workers of color collective, okay? Delete that and put the words relevant organizations. Because you use, later on you had in parentheses, or organizations with 5-year experience in that kind of work. Because if you leave the words birth workers of color collective, I feel that if this bill is passed and made and signed by the governor, you're locked in. You must hire them. That's the impression I get. But if you remove those words and substitute it with something like relevant organization, it might be a better legal term, way of saying it, but that's how I strongly feel that should be changed. And line 5, define congruent, and there might be a couple other words that we need to define, and also the absence of abortions must be monitored, reported. So that's it. I would hope that these ideas reflect the cultural, educational, and direct fiscal relevance that this bill proposes, and that you senators will make amendments to reflect that understanding. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. But as long as you do understand and acknowledge that the legislature's findings and intent came from the author. He's taking notes. It's not the body. Okay? And in any part, whenever it says like, is an example of, it doesn't mean that specifically. So, and you know how, I know you know how to use the words. But moving along, we're going to open up for questions from the panel. Senator Fisher, do you have any questions for the panel? So we can move along.
Okay.
We're winding down to just the three of us left.
Yeah, my goodness, we're already at 12:30. I thank you for everybody for your patience. And Ms. Espinoza, thank you very much for your observations, and thank you very much for going through the bill and registering your problems with it and things that you think are all right and so forth and so on. And I did listen very carefully to what you said, and I do appreciate what you said, and I appreciate you waiting so long to testify. I just have to emphasize that this bill is about healthy mothers and healthy babies. It's not about abortion. It's just not. We want to have healthy babies and healthy mothers on this island. I think everybody does, whether you're for this bill or not for this bill. But we just have to be clear that this is a bill to address a horrible problem, which is maternal mortality and infant mortality. And ma'am, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but...
Muñeca Dioro.
Yeah,
we're neighbors.
Yes, we are, as a matter of fact.
We know your dog.
Yeah, the dog, yeah. This is kind of, you know, having made the observation that we're here about healthy mothers, healthy babies, when you began your presentation, you read the names of some babies who did not make it to their first birthday?
Didn't make it home from the hospital. Yeah.
Out of honor for those babies, would you read their names again?
Mateo, Francisco, Carlo, Miguel, Lamuhu, and Sai.
Okay.
And those are just the ones that I'm like closely connected to, and there's just so many more, and so many who did make it home but didn't make it to their first birthday.
Okay, and well, you understand that this bill is, we're trying to prevent those early tragic, just life-changing deaths, and the same with the mother, because I agree, I mean, there is something sacred about the office of motherhood, and it takes a village. It takes a village. We've got to all, put our oar in the water and help to solve this problem. And again, you know, $400,000 is not going to solve this entire problem, but we mean to solve this problem, and eventually someday we will solve this problem. So thank you all, even those of you who are against this bill, thank you for coming out, and I mean that sincerely.
Women do need support. I don't care what walk in life, but of course, it is a beautiful thing. But yes, this abortion thing, we want the infant mortality rates to go down, not go up. And Guam has gone up with 2022, 2023 aborted babies down the toilet. That's what I want to preserve. We want babies to be born into the world.
Yes,
here.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, it is good that, I mean, we have found common ground, you and I, in that we both support healthy mothers and we both support healthy babies, but we do have a departure, and that's just the way it is. But I just would like to assure you that in no way is this bill. Doulas don't perform abortions, and somebody was asking earlier about, you know, the reporting to public health. I can't imagine why a doula would do that, because they haven't performed the abortion. Whoever the provider of that care is certainly has a statutory obligation to report.
Thank you. I really want to just go back and say, well, you know what, you mentioned that, and you're the author of the bill. We had the, what was that bill? Oh my gosh, we had the, telehealth, telemedicine abortion is being done. We know that. We have reports. So, but we had senators who vowed to not use telemedicine for teleabortion. So anyway, that's how that went. So we do have that.
And ma'am, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the information.
Thank you.
And again, all of you who have spoken, and Mr. Chair, with that, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Vice, I know you wanted to comment in reference to that.
Yes, I do know it's already at 12:30, but I had a question for maybe Jane and Stevie, if you can come up, please, maybe even Tia, maybe just for a verification on a definition. What a beautiful baby, thank you. I promise it will be short. So for me personally, I want to look at what the definition of a doula is and maybe get your perspective after I read my comment. A doula is a trained professional who provides physical, emotional, and informational support to individuals before, during, and after childbirth. They do not provide medical care, but instead offer guidance and advocacy to help birthing persons feel more comfortable, informed, and empowered during the process. Doulas typically work alongside with medical professionals to support individuals and families in achieving a positive and empowering birth experience. So that is what I think a doula is, and I wanted to get your interpretation of that because I think maybe we should put the definition of a doula as described. Now, it could be different for you. If you want to add in your comments to that based on what I said, you're more than welcome to share that perspective because I think a definition of a doula should be put in because I know you as doulas and you as a doula do not, and be sure, do not do abortions personally. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, I would say that it would be great to put in that definition. I love the definition that you gathered. I also want to speak to the full spectrum language. Full spectrum does not just mean that it also covers abortion. It means essentially that is the full spectrum of their experience. So from prenatal to postpartum. And so I just want to be very clear on that, yes, that language is used in this bill because we want our doulas to support them prenatally, during their birth, and also postpartum.
So simpler terms, before, during, after.
Yes.
Okay, Jane?
I think that I should leave it up to the doulas to have that definition included.
Ms. Tia and Ms. Juliana, if you want to say anything, you're more than welcome on the definition.
I identify with what you've mentioned. I also like to consider myself like a sacred guardian of birth, especially in that room, especially during the time whenever the mom enters the hospital and really honoring her space when she's there. I think Muñeca mentioned her experience where she was already there 30 minutes after she got there, she delivered. And she mentioned the questions that are being asked to her. It's one thing that I've already advocated for during three deliveries here in Guam. And I hope to help change that dynamic because it's my goal to make these birthing experiences the best possible experiences that the mom can have. So in addition to what you mentioned, I consider myself a guardian of birth.
Bistra?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, language is very important. The lady next to me also noticed certain things in the language written, but I do agree to the best success of this bill, definitely definition must stipulate down to the T what it entails, what's included, what's excluded. That way, we're gonna actually move towards the intended goal of saving babies and mothers.
Thank you. Juliana?
Thank you guys so much again, and I really appreciated hearing everybody's input today as well. As an aspiring doula, I am in training. I am an experienced mom, and I wanted to reiterate that from what I've been able to experience, what's the word, empirically? What is the word? I'm so sorry. I'm actually really nervous now. There has been a lot of focus on profitability of this work, and I just wanted to reiterate that it's really not profitable. Most of the women and other birth workers that I've met and had the privilege of getting to know don't get into this work to make money. They get into this work because they want to take care of their community and they have a personal connection to what has happened to them. So, and as a doula and as an aspiring doula, I and the cohort that I am connected to focus on accessibility. So I agree on your focus on language. I think that there's a lot to be said about language. I think as a writer, there's a lot to be said on our own personal definitions and applications of definitions to words like women and people who can give birth. And I don't think that that's the focus of this bill. I think that you said it yourself very well, as inclusivity is very important. That bill is the language of this bill is very inclusive, and it's meant to be inclusive. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I know, Mr. Chair, we're almost out of time because they need to reset the screen. So I do want to say that I think for me personally, having all of you guys here, but maybe the definition, as I stated, based on my belief of what a doula is, we should look at that definition. We should look further, and if there's anything else that you can share in your perspective that you might think that may be included in the definition of that, because again, a new program may not be new to the United States of America, but new here, because we are including a new program that is not existing in statute today. And like I said, we did have our cultural surohanas, our traditional healers and all that, but again, for the definition of this bill and this program, and if anybody out there wants to do a program that needs resources, and please, there's 15 of us that you can go to, so I just wanted to make that clear. And Jane, I know you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to add that it may be new to Guam, but it is also proven. It is not something that we pulled out of the sky. This is a proven program that is working in the States because it is a non-medical program that helps women to have healthier babies and healthier pregnancies. And the reason why it's working is because it is an intervention that happens before, when early in the pregnancy, and it's an intervention that can happen non-medically, and it's not as expensive, and that's one of the reasons why it's working. And with regard to profitability, as Jelena mentioned, these women are not in this for profit. However, there is a value to this program for the community. And we can't expect anyone, counselors, nurses, doulas, community workers, community health workers, we can't expect them to work for free. They will be compensated under this program, and we hope, like I said, to get it in Medicaid and in private insurance. And the reason why it's there already in some states is because they recognize the success and the value of this to the community. So thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Ms. Jane. Mr. Chair, thank you very much. I think this is really important. I think this is a positive bill. I think the reason why it had so many sponsors is because we wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity to bring this new program for Guam that's not in its books to come to full fruition and provide that professional expertise at heart before, during, and after. So thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know that the machines might go down soon, so thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Senator Fisher, short wrap-up.
Yes, thank you. Just in closing, to all the doulas on Guam and the doulas who want to be, thank you. Thank you for the tremendous compassion that you show towards your fellow man. We really appreciate it. And to the extent that you were not seen before, now Guam knows what doulas are, and we see you. So thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There being no one else to present testimony on this bill, this hearing is now concluded. The time now is 12:39. Thank everyone for attending this hearing, providing feedback and suggestions. Bill 318-37 LS. Public hearing is now adjourned. The time is 12:39. Thank you. Sus Masi.